I was just having a bit of a session on Bloodborne.
Alright, whereabouts were you?
Canehurst. Just doing Canehurst, which is one of my favourite areas of the whole thing, I've got to say.
Oddly enough, one of the more Dark Souls-y-esque looking areas.
Definitely. I mean, it's one of the things I commented on while I was recording is that it's one of those like stylistic shifts. It feels very, very, very different from the rest of the game. It's the Gothic horror section.
Definitely.
It's all Bram Stoker, isn't it? It's all Bram Stoker, and there's a little bit of Poe in there as well. It's vampires, it's Gothic castles, it's spectral coaches, it's headless ghosts.
You know what we were missing? We were missing Alfred having a Keanu Reeves-esque voice.
Oh my god, they missed the trick there.
Yeah, it would have completed it utterly. Like, he kills, oh god, what's the name?
Oh, Annalise. Annalise of Vile Bloods, yeah.
Yes, all in the Keanu Reeves voice. That would have been amazing. Would have loved that.
That would have been good. In fact, they could have even, like, sculpted him to look a little bit like Keanu Reeves. That would have been fabulous. A whole Jonathan Harker thing, yeah?
I would have been into that. 100%.
I would so be into that. But you know, Canehurst is a weird place. When I first played the game through, I completely missed it.
Totally understandable. Like, you have to go through a lot of faff to get there. Like, because I've never read the item descriptions, does it say in the invitation that you need to go to a specific place to... okay, so it is just...
I think it makes vague reference to a crossroads, but where the hell? I mean, that could be anywhere, couldn't it? I mean, the thing is, it's like you have to go through several secret areas of the game that are themselves quite well hidden. So Hemwick Charnel Lane is completely optional. I missed that too. When I my first playthrough, completely missed Hemwick Charnel Lane, so there's no way I was going to get to Canehurst. Obviously, you've got to go to Yosefska's clinic.
I don't think that one's too hard to get to, as long as you might spot it as you're going through the Forbidden Woods. You might notice the little path off, because it is signposted. There is like a lantern that sort of shows you where it is. But even so, I missed that too when I first played it through. So really, like a good chunk of the game, I didn't do on my first playthrough, and I think that's true for a lot of people who don't like watch a playthrough first or aren't reading a guide. Yeah, I would agree 100% there. So technically, you missed out on two bosses. Yeah. Arguably one of the easier ones, depending on how much insight you have, obviously. And then Master Ligarius is just unpleasant.
Martyr Ligarius is. I haven't. I mean, I got on the video I was just recording. I did the run through of Canehurst, opened all the shortcuts, got all the items, and then stopped the video just before I got to Martyr Ligarius, because I know he's going to screw me up.
He is way harder if you're doing a pure arcane build. Yeah. Because he has, one of his things is he has fairly high physical resistance to both slash and thrust and blunt. But he has much higher resistance to arcane. So my first time fighting him, I was doing a pure arcane build and was like, oh god, kill me.
How do you do it? I mean, he's really tricky, isn't he? And he's one of those bosses that he's very difficult to get a bead on. You know, like a lot of the harder bosses in Bloodborne. The ones that you can pin down. If you can keep them at a particular distance, you're generally going to be alright. But he flits all over the damn place.
When he gets to phase 2, after that, because I'm doing my Blood Tinge build, I didn't find him that difficult. I find him much easier because I could, for the most part, stand back and shoot him from a distance.
Just shoot him and stagger him and whatnot,
Yeah, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, with the arcane build, because my spells did nothing, it was like 2 hits, run away, 2 hits, run away, and then scream when he plants the sword in the ground.
Oh my god!
Because I didn't know you had to break that. I thought that was just that's there forever.
You just had to avoid.
You can get rid of it.
Oh my god! So you didn't. You were actually just weathering the storm of swords.
Yeah,
that he cast.
Pretty much. I was like, what the hell?
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I mean, he's one of those bosses. Again, you said before that Canehurst is really Dark Souls. Yeah, you could transplant him into Dark Souls 3.
He does look a bit like Gwyn's brother.
Right. I mean, you could even... I mean, I know that this, and I believe it was Dark Souls 2, were in production at around the same time.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if there were assets that were sort of flipped over, or they sort of swapped between them. Oh, this may not fit or may not work in Dark Souls 2. Let's put it in Bloodborne, or vice versa.
Maybe. I wouldn't initially say that, because like this is all Miyazaki, and obviously the A team worked on Bloodborne, and the B team, though it is me to say, they were clearly the B team worked on Dark Souls.
Dark Souls 2, yeah. It's an interesting one, Dark Souls 2. There were elements of it I absolutely loved. I mean, there were some things I thought were gorgeous. I loved Drangleic itself. I loved it's got the best, apart from Bloodborne, which has an amazing story, but of the Dark Souls game, it's got my favourite narrative arc all the way through.
I'd say it's got the best hub world as well.
Yeah.
Like, Majula's great. It's the best looking hub world of any of them.
Well, it's so distinct, isn't it? When I found Majula for the first time, I was like, this isn't like a Dark Souls game. This feels like something else. It's so bright, it's so open.
Yeah, so uplifting. You got down, you're like, oh, this is... You wanted to take your jacket off.
Yeah, right.
Because it was so warm. It's like, oh, this is... And why would you... You know, the guy who's sitting at the top saying, oh, it's all gone, it's all worthless. It'd be like, he's got the right idea. Stay in the sun, have a nice laugh.
Absolutely.
Pet the cat.
But then you've got the actual game, and there are just so many issues. There are elements of it I absolutely adore. The DLC, I think, is spectacular.
It can be a real fucking pain in the ass, though.
It's very hard. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
A lot of it is really gimmicky as well.
I think that was my issue with it. I didn't like the gimmicks, but there are, like you say, there are a lot of good things in it. Like it feels like a better planned out DLC than the actual game itself. Like,
Absolutely.
It's got more of the Dark Souls feel to it, which is bizarre.
Yeah, for me, the DLC fixed a lot of the... I mean, it introduced a lot of its own problems as well, but it fixed a lot of the problems I had with the main game. It was just so much more interesting, and I love the bosses for the DLC.
Yes.
The Burnt Ivory King is... the drama of that fight.
The only boss that's a letdown that I can recall from the top of my head is the blue smelter demon, because it's like, he's the smelter demon just blue, and he's such a pain to get to.
Exactly. You know what? The optional bosses, the midway bosses in the DLC, are all shit.
Yeah.
They're all palette swapped or doubled up bosses from the previous the main game, and they're also cheap as hell. They're just cheap. You know, that smelter demon I didn't even bother with.
I don't blame you. It's not a fun fight. He's not like super hard, as long as you need to just keep cracking life gems constantly, and that's a pain.
But it's the run-up, isn't it? It's the run-up. That smelter demon has one of the worst run-ups in possibly all of the games.
Yeah, it's pretty long.
Full of enemies that themselves are really cheap.
Did you fight? I can't remember off the top of my head. Did you fight the 3 NPCs who were bosses as well? Because that's a right faffy fight.
I went to them, and then I started fighting them, and I was like, "Oh, fuck this!"
It's such a pain again.
Yeah. It is, and it's like, it's no fun either, because there's nothing interesting about them. It's just characters from the other games just thrown together, you know? It's like, oh, well, fine.
Was there a point to them? Was there I can't remember. Was there a narrative point to them, or was it just, like you say, more of a, here's the lads?
It is just that. They are kind of the narrative point themselves. I think there's an item that you get after, but it's nothing, it's no great shakes. It certainly doesn't do anything story-wise or anything like that. It's just, I think it's just a weapon that you get after you kill them, and it's like, oh, okay, fine, whatever. It's, no, they're not worth it. But the main bosses from that deal, I love them. The Fume Knight.
Yeah, he's great. Though I prefer, who's the samurai kind of hidden boss?
Yes,
he's way better.
Oh God, what's his name?
I can't remember. But he's referenced so many times throughout the game as well, which is even more annoying.
Yeah, he's like a key character in the mythology, isn't he, in the lore?
Yeah.
I can't remember what his name is, but he is amazing. He's like a fight from Sekiro.
Yeah. Oddly enough, yeah. I love the fact that if he can't touch you, he'll kill himself through shame. I never did it, but it's great. A bit of character on him as well.
It is wonderful, isn't it? And it's a lovely little, just a narrative nod. And that's the kind of thing I loved in Dark Souls 2. I love the little narrative touches and that whole back mythology of like the queens that are shards of Manus.
Yeah, that was great. That's really interesting.
I loved that. I absolutely loved that. And the whole thing about what's the king of Drangleiac's name? Vendrick, yeah. When he's built, you automatically think that he's going to be the big boss. He's going to be like the Gwyn equivalent that you fight at the end. And then when you find him, he is this sad, slovenly, undead thing.
Oh, definitely.
I thought that was wonderful. It's just because the version I was playing as well was the Scholar of the First Sin version.
Oh, that's much better.
It is much better, but it's also a pain in the arse.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
There are so many cheap moments in that game where, were I not doing a let's play of it, I probably would have quit.
Like which part specifically?
The Shrine of Amana.
Oh, that was shit in both versions of the game, though. It didn't matter.
Undoubtedly, there was a point in the Shrine of Amana where I'd got it done. I'd managed to sort of battle through, and then I just fell through a hole in the floor that I couldn't see. I couldn't see it because of the water, you know.
Yep.
And I was like, you know what, that. I hesitate to say it, but that's just piss poor game design.
I'm not sure it's piss poor, but it's a very deliberate part of the game design where it's like you need to. It almost feels like it's forcing you to play in a specific way, more so than any other part of the game, which is more like, build your character however you want. I always felt the Shrine of Amana was have a bow and shoot everything. If you don't, you're going to have a hard, unpleasant time. That's not the best way to do it.
If you haven't got a character that's designed around that, then you're screwed. It just makes the area so unforgiving and so unpleasant. The other thing that almost did for me was I can't remember his name. The big knight that's before Vendrick's tomb.
Oh, he's got a big hammer.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because he was particularly hard, it wasn't that at all. It was because when I was fighting him, what I was noticing was you fight him just like all the other big bloody knights in the game. You lock on, you circle right, and then you just keep dodging his attacks until you get an opening. That's all you do. What got me about him is the only reason he's a boss is because he's cheap. There's a hitbox on that huge mace that he's got. He doesn't even have to attack you with it. If you hit the hitbox as you're circling around, you go flying across the screen as though he's hit you. And that happened several times, and I was like, that is just cheap. Were it not for that,
I definitely think hitboxes in general in that game are wonky. He's maybe the best example, but I would argue that the Ancient Dragon has some of that going on as well.
Oh, definitely. Generally, I found the hitboxes to be unpleasant. I really did. But I don't want to moan too much because there are things I like about it. There are things I really love. It's just that compared to the other games in the series, it's the one I wouldn't go back and play again.
No, you'd probably look at your game library and go, I'd rather play Dark Souls 3 again.
Absolutely.
Or even Dark Souls 1.
Yeah, 1 is gorgeous. I love 1 to bits. I really love 1 to bits. It is obviously slightly flawed because it's the first one in the lot, and there are certain elements that haven't quite tightened, that haven't been ratcheted up yet, but I love the structure of the game.
Yes, that's its strongest element, the world design and how everything connects. It's fantastic.
It is. It's beautiful. The way it all goes together and the way the different areas feed into one another, I think, are absolutely stunning. I just love the story and the back mythology of the game. I love the way when you do eventually come to fight Gwyn, he is this ruined creature.
You expect such a big grand fight, and you're like, I feel bad.
It's actually sad, isn't it? And the music and the atmosphere all complements that. I think it's beautiful. I really, really do. But that's a consistent theme, obviously, throughout the games.
Depression.
Yeah, depression. Ultimately, yeah, it is a depressing metaphysics, isn't it, that you get in those games? Because it's like, even more so, I find than in Bloodborne. I mean, Bloodborne is bad enough, but in Dark Souls, it's different. I get in Dark Souls the sense of a world just grinding down. It's a universe that's just, it's endlessly recycling, but the wider machine is breaking down slowly. And of course, you get that at the end of Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, with Bloodborne, it's a bit more. I don't want to say hopeful. It's almost more of a stereotypical kind of horror film where it's got that kind of bleak ending, but the greater world is fine, I suppose. Yeah, for the most part.
What I find in Bloodborne, as horrific as it gets, and I would say that there are specific elements of Bloodborne that are way more horrific than the things that you find in Dark Souls. But what you do get in Bloodborne is there's hope. There is potential to come through the dream in multiple different ways, and even if you get like the what people consider to be the proper ending, where you get the 3/3 of the umbilical cord and you fight the moon presence and whatnot, you actually get to transcend.
Yeah, good. I mean, who knows?
It's ambiguous.
That's abstract.
It's ambiguous. It really is. But what happens is you do get to become a great one. You know, you become kind of a god. You know, and I can see how that could be interpreted as a positive ending.
Yeah, I suppose, depending on like if that was your intent, like if you project onto your character that their intent was to obtain some sort of unholy power or inhuman power, then it's certainly a happy ending. But what it means to be a great one, obviously we have no idea.
We have
that's
no idea.
The point.
There are.
We wouldn't want to know.
No, and there are implications throughout the game. You know, there are these little references, especially in the old Hunters, when you come to mentions of the sea, for example.
Yes.
The notion of, because it's not a literal sea, is it? It's like
no.
It's a metaphorical sea. It's an abstract sea. And it seems to be where it's one of the areas, one of the planes of existence, or one of the planes of dreaming, where the Great Ones either come from or where it's how they connect to the various other realms of dreaming. It's so weird. It's so strange.
I suppose you could always look at this, in quotations, the sea as multiple interpretations of maybe the life stream, if you wanted to go down that route, the Sea of Souls, if you wanted to go down that route.
It's the Sea of Potential.
Another dimension. Yeah, the Sea of Potential. It's
the Sea
weird.
of raw potential, isn't it? It's where all dreams and all things are possible. And I mean, you know, you do get that wonderfully despairing element in the old Hunters, where you actually find out what the Hunters and the Scholars of Bergenworth did.
They just messed up.
Oh my god!
Why?
I love
they
that.
did everything they wanted, and it's like you fucked it up. Why would you do that?
Yeah, right. They screwed it up completely. So they actually managed to somehow call Kos the mother of all gods. Basically, she is like the Mother Great One, isn't she? She's the equivalent of Tiamat in ancient Sumerian mythology, and Erden is Apsu, basically the father god. And then what do? They kill her.
The one thing I thought of while playing the game, which I thought would be neat, but maybe a bit too much of an explanation, would be to find out if one of the actual person, the individual that killed Kos, was Patches.
Okay, interesting.
And that's why he is trapped in the nightmare as this creepy Spider-Man.
Right.
As almost a punishment. I thought, it's not the case, but I thought that would be a funny thing, like, Patches the traitor was the guy that screwed everything.
Oh, yeah, that would be fun. So Patches is, responsible for everything that's going wrong.
And would kind of follow his character of, I'm going to be an asshole and trick people, because that's kind of what I do.
He is, Patches is such a weird character because he is an arsehole, there's no doubt about it, but he seems to... especially in this game and in Dark Souls 3, he seems to be doing it because he thinks it's for your own good.
Does he, though?
It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's difficult.
He talks in Bloodborne, when you know, like that area in the Nightmare Frontier, when he comes up behind you and pushes you into the goo with all the tentacle, squiddy flatworm things. He says afterwards, and he says before actually, that he's helping you to tread a measure with the gods. He's helping you to meet the amygdala, ultimately.
And he seems to think that that's a good thing somehow.
But he also didn't think you'd kill Amygdala.
No, that's true.
So I suppose, like, is it he thinks he's doing it, or is he like Gul Dukat from DS9, and it's like he's a hero of his own story. No matter whatever he does, he's in the right, and everything he does is perfectly okay.
It's so hard to tell, isn't it? It's so hard to tell, because his motivations are so complex. I mean, you get a tiny little bit of who Patches is in Dark Souls 3 as well. Yes. Obviously, you know, towards the end. You get that relationship that he's got with the thief guy.
Oh, Grey Rat.
With Grey Rat, yeah, and he actually seems to be concerned about him.
He does, yeah.
Which is quite sweet in its own peculiar way. And then, of course...
with Patches, I'd always say potentially it seems sweet.
It seems to be. It's hard to tell.
Yes.
It is hard to tell. I mean, there is one theory, because when Grey Rat is saved by, I believe the Onion Knight saves him at one point. He talks about how the Onion Knight came and saved him from monsters, and that's how he managed to get back. There is one theory that it's actually not Siegward that does it. It's actually Patches wearing Siegward's armor.
Yeah.
Which I can see. I can actually see that. I think that's kind of cool.
Do you think Patches being in Bloodborne is out of place, given the context that we know he's not well, as far as I'm aware, he's not in Sekiro?
I don't know. Patches is a weird one. I don't know, because it's hard to tell. Is it the same Patches, for one thing? Is he multi-dimensional? Is he like reborn from reincarnation to reincarnation? Is it the same guy? Or is it like an entirely different Patches for this universe? Because he certainly acts differently in Bloodborne. I mean, he's got that whole religious thing going on in Bloodborne, where he's connected to the amygdala.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
That's why I thought it was weird he wasn't in Sekiro at all, as far as I knew, because if he was, it would almost make more sense, because he would be one of those... it would be a Miyazaki theme, like the Moonlight Butterfly Sword. It would be one of those things that continues, and you could throw in the thing of it's multi-universe theory, and it's just multiple versions of Patches, maybe loosely connected, or he travels through the world.
You know, it does fit with the metaphysics of both Dark Souls and Bloodborne, because we know, of course, the metaphysics of Dark Souls is cyclical.
So do you think maybe that's why they didn't do it, because it didn't fit with the metaphysics of Sekiro, since that's more grounded?
It is. Sekiro's a little bit more, ironically, it's a bit more secular, isn't it? It's a bit more... I mean, it does have fantastical elements, you know, it's got monsters.
But the more like, usually, not normal Japanese mythology based, from why I haven't played it, but from what I know, that's set hard in Japanese mythology and religion and
it's whatever monsters you get in Sekiro, they're few and far between. Most of the enemies are either some form of human or like twisted humanoid. Some of them are like gigantic, you know, they're distorted somehow, but they're mostly human for the most part. But you do get these occasional godly entities that are from Shintoism, and you get ghostly entities that are from Japanese folklore and whatnot. But there's nothing that even approaches the raw metaphysics that you get in Dark Souls or Bloodborne. Absolutely nothing. I don't.
Is this a podcast, by the way?
Oh yeah. I mean, this is the way it happens. I mean, you know, I generally, you know, as people who are listening will undoubtedly know, I generally don't do an introduction. We just start waffling and then things happen. That just generally seems to be how it is.
Yes, I know this is how this goes down with you and Adam on the fluff.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure if this was like, oh no, we gotta stop. We gotta do an intro.
No, we don't need to bother. unless people want one, I could do an intro. You know. No, it's not bother. But yeah, because I don't know about Patches. I honestly don't know. He may just be like a recurring motif, obviously, you know, outside the video game, he's just a recurring motif. But he does recur again at the end in the DLC of Dark Souls 3, doesn't he?
He does, yeah.
And actually in that one, he's got one of the most interesting arcs, because you don't know it's him. And he doesn't know it's him when you first meet him.
Is it Lud?
That's right. It's Laird or Lud or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And he's just a guy at the end of the world. He's just this knight at the end of everything, at the end of all creation, who you meet, who doesn't know who he is. He says that he's hollow, so he's forgotten everything. And there is an arc you can do which allows you to restore his memory.
And he's somewhat thankful?
Somewhat, but his method of thanks is questionable.
It's usual.
Yeah.
It sticks in his character.
So but you know what? When I first did it, when he pushes you off that ledge and starts laughing, I was like, oh, because I didn't know it was Patches. I had no idea, and I thought, at the end of all things, at the end of not just like one world, but all worlds, where all creation is tending together, one of the last beings alive is this fucker.
It has to mean something more than he can't just be human.
Right, yeah.
There's no way. Not when he outlasts gods and great heroes and all that. He has to be more.
Well, everything. He outlasts every great kingdom. He outlasts all of the gods that are born to Gwyn's line. None of them are left by that point. Every demon, every entity that's ever existed, he outlasts, apart from Gale.
Yeah. I think he's just kind of going on at this point because he's like pure grit to complete his mission. And then insanity.
Yeah, and I love that. I still haven't bloody done it, by the way. I can't.
Oh, you haven't been.
I can't get a bead on Gale at the moment. There's something about that fight where I can't work it out.
He's nippy and he hits real hard.
Oh my god, yeah. Even with help, I can't do it. And I've had cooperators. I've had cooperators in. And I'm finding him really, really tricky for some reason. Although he's not as bad as that damn dragon.
Oh god, what's his name?
The optional one.
The
one that's corrupted by Shadow, by the Abyss.
Oh, it's so annoying. I hate not knowing. Because he causes problems.
He is, of all the dragons in the Dark Souls games, he's the hardest, definitely.
I would argue he's easier to fight on your own because the amount of buffing he gets through multiple people makes him ridiculous.
And you need to concentrate on him. If he's chasing other characters around, very often he kills you by accident. Just because he steps on you or he swings his tail around, and that's it. You're done.
It's the tail swipe that does it most of the time because the arc on the tail swipe is massive, and 90% of the time it'll give you count hit damage as well because you're usually running or trying to get to him or rolling away in bad roll. He's nasty.
I can see why they made him optional.
Yeah, Medea,
right? That's it. I kept thinking of Calamite from Dark Souls 1.
He's a pain. He's definitely an upgraded Calamite.
Yeah, I mean, he's even the same species of creature, isn't he? I mean, Calamite was an abyssal dragon as well, so, and Calamite took me a lot of tries. A lot of tries to get right, but I actually managed to defeat him. But Medea, he might be the one where I'm like, you know what, I don't have to do it. I'll show you how he works, and then I'll just leave him be,
It's not just that he hits hard. He's probably one of the bosses that has the most health in Dark Souls, at least 3. I can't think of anyone else that has more health off the top of my head than he does.
A boss that's tankier than Medea.
Yeah. No, I don't think there is one.
I love the way he's set up as well. The way you encounter him throughout the DLC, and you have to knock him off cliffs and whatnot, and you have to negotiate him as a hazard. I
hate knocking him off that cliff, though. That's a bloody pain as well. I had to get under his head and hit him.
Yeah. If you don't know how to do it, it's a pain in the fucking arse. If you haven't watched a playthrough or something, that's what I had to do because I didn't understand what the game was. I didn't understand what you had to do. And it is just a game of bait and switch, isn't it? You've got to bait his attacks and then run to the safe area, then bait them again, and run to the safe area. It's a real grind, that is.
No, the way I did it was I stood under a very specific spot underneath his head, and as long as you kind of maneuver left and right a little bit here and there, he can't touch you.
He can't hit you, right?
But it's one of those things that if he does touch you, it won't kill you, but it'll push you off the ledge and poop.
Yes.
So it's the safer option, but takes longer is definitely the bait.
Definitely. I mean, have you killed Calamites?
Yes.
Yeah, you did it.
I've done them all.
Oh god, I am gonna go back to it. I'm gonna do Calamite and I'm gonna do Gale because I've got to do it. I've done all the others in all the other Dark Souls games, so it must be done. It must be done at some point.
I'm just having too much fun with Bloodborne at the moment, I've got to say.
Yes, nothing wrong with that.
It's the game. I mean, it's the game I started with these games. You know, that was the first one of them I played.
Yeah.
So it's the one. It's the kind of like the default of my muscle memory. And I think that's a lot of the problem I have with Dark Souls, because you can't play Dark Souls like Bloodborne.
Oh, you can, but you're going to have a rough time.
You're going to find it difficult. And vice versa as well. I mean, vice versa. You know, if you
the
try
game
to...
deliberately tells you don't do this, when it gives you that wooden shield.
Friggin' wooden shield, yeah, right. Which is just a giant joke, yeah?
Yes.
But it also tells you with Gascoigne. If you try to fight Gascoigne as you would a Dark Souls boss, like if you hold back and you try to play defensively, you're done.
Yeah, I think it was the second or third time or fourth time he killed me. The very first time I was playing with my Arcane build, where I went, okay, what if I dodge forward when he's a beast? Oh, he never hits you if you dodge into him.
Yeah.
He can't hit you. It's great.
It is brilliant when you learn that, but it's difficult to unlearn, isn't it? Because like every video game, really up to that point, is telling you are programmed. Oh, I dodge away, or I dodge to the left, or I dodge to the right. You dodge into, and that's true for so many of the bosses in Bloodborne. It's deliberately designed to make you play aggressively.
Yeah, I think there are like one or two bosses in the Dark Souls series that are dodge into them, but it's for usually one attack.
Yeah.
And like you say, for most of the bosses in this, it's most of their attacks you dodge into them.
Yeah. And it's so, what I find with Bloodborne is I find the bosses to be much more intense, but also much more fun to play. Generally speaking, I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a lot of the encounters in the Dark Souls series, particularly Dark Souls 3. I love the big mythological bosses in Dark Souls 3. You know, Pontiff Sullivan. I friggin' love that fight. I love it to bits. What's the one that comes after Pontiff Sullivan? It's
the God Eater.
The God Eater, yeah. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But that fight is one of my absolute favourites. Not least of which because I love what they've done with it. You know, the way it implies that the creature has already eaten several of the gods from the mythology already.
Yes, yeah. The only aspect of that fight I was never a fan of is the arrows, when you have to just run away from them.
Bloody hell. And very often, if you're not in a particular position, they're just going to get you anyway.
Yeah, and if you're unlucky, he'll do it, or it, I'm not sure, it's gender to be honest, it will do it multiple times in a row, and if it just keeps doing it, it's just you run forward, then run away, then run forward, he does again, run away, and it's just, you're hoping for it to do different attack. Yeah. Just do something different so we can move the fight along.
Just so you've got a chance to actually hit the damn thing. That's what I find difficult. But when it comes to gender, I don't think it matters. I mean, the creature has swallowed so many creatures of varying gender. I mean, you've definitely got Priscilla in there somewhere. You've got Nito in there somewhere. You've got Gwendolyn in there, of course, whose gender is non-standard. It's very, very, very strange indeed. Very strange indeed. But I love that. I love the notion that the before he became that sludgy mass of god-eating nonsense, he was a man. He was actually a priest, like just a normal guy, but ascended to that state. I love that. I think that's really cool. And in that creature, you actually have a slight sort of a suggestion of a crossover with the metaphysics of Bloodborne.
Yeah, I suppose so, with the whole religious aspect and turning into a beast of sorts. Yeah, definitely, I can see that.
And also, his religion is of the deep.
Yes,
it's the cathedral of the deep, and you never find out what the deep is. But there are references that it's like an ocean. And it makes me wonder, is it the same metaphysical ocean that the Great Ones come from? And is that what this creature is doing? Is it ascending to the status of a Great One in the same way that a lot of the characters from Bloodborne are?
It does share some, I mean, from the more tentacle aspects of it, you could see it sharing a similar almost aesthetic to the Moonlight Beast. If you just look at one of its tentacles, you can see that as an aspect of it, potentially.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that whole area, Irithyll, in Dark Souls 3 has a very Bloodborne quality to it anyway. I mean, you get the Pontiff's Beast that appears on the bridge chasing you, and the background for that suggests that was actually a human being, a resident of Irithyll, that the Pontiff somehow corrupted.
Yeah.
And that's true of a lot of the monsters in Irithyll, like the women spidery things that exist in the sewers and in the swamps.
Ah, yeah, the multiple-limbed, almost corpse thingies. Yeah,
they're very Bloodborne. Very Bloodborne indeed.
No, it's true. Yeah, and then you have something like a holy order of knights in white, walking the streets with crosses.
Love it to bits. That's actually one of my favourite areas in Dark Souls. I've got to say, I love Irithyll of the Boreal Valley, which actually turns out to be Anor Londo, doesn't it?
Yes, at least built underneath in conjunction with it. Yes.
Which, I mean, okay, another thing that whereby Dark Souls 3 is very like Bloodborne is the world isn't quite as static or stable as it was before. So it's difficult to say whether the areas that you're wandering through are literally where they are, or whether it's some sort of weird metaphysical abstract thing that's going on. A bit like you get in the Hunter's Nightmare.
Yeah, but at least it's still it makes sense versus Dark Souls 2, where you go from the Poison Valley to the Iron Keep, which makes... I'm sure you've seen the jokes of... You go up in the lift and there's a lava lake that was apparently in the sky above you somehow.
It doesn't make a great deal of sense, especially when I mean, you must have seen the overlays of the maps.
Yes, yeah, that's a nightmare for Dark Souls 2.
Dark Souls 2, they're all in one area. They're all existing in like one place, superimposed over one another, and it just doesn't work. Although, again, given the metaphysics of that game, it does. I can understand why it is like that.
I would argue that sounds more like a plaster over a cut kind of idea. Like you hope that's what they were going for.
And
but when you compare it to the 3D, when you compare it to the 3D map layout of Dark Souls 1, where it is one entire structure, it's one full structure, and you can literally see all of the levels, and it's all deliberately built in the correct ways on top of each other.
It's coherent.
Like, perfect. Yeah, it's perfectly designed.
And you can feel that. You could definitely feel that in the game. It feels like Metroid, doesn't it? It's got that sort of Metroid feeling where everything interlinks and intersects beautifully, and there are all these wonderful little crossroads and intersections and areas. That happens in Bloodborne all the bloody time, where you find like a pathway that you've never found before, or a lift that you've never found before, and you emerge in another area, and you're like, oh my god, that is genius.
Yeah, I think it's the strongest in Yharnam.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's a city, so it kind of makes sense that you've got the multiple streets kind of leading to the streets leading back on itself. Whereas Charnel Lane doesn't do it at all. It's more of a linear path, but that makes sense because it's a crossroads.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you'd never know, as we talked about right at the start.
Absolutely, you would. I mean, that's one of the elements of Bloodborne I adore, to be honest, that adventure game element, which is, it's kind of old-fashioned. It reminds me a lot of like old NES and Amiga games, you know, where you don't have these explicit clues telling you where you've got to go and what you've got to do and what levers you've got to press and whatnot. You've just got to explore.
Yeah.
You've just got to wander around and see what happens. I mean, without a guide or without a video walkthrough or something, I don't know how you would ever discover that you need to take the Cainhurst summons to Hemwick Charnel Lane, to that specific crossroads, to get the coach to appear, to get to Cainhurst.
Yeah, it would have... The only way I could see it happening is if you did... not Cainhurst, you did Charnel Lane late game after Amelia, obviously. That's the only way, and you just went, found this place, and then you happened to walk up to the crossroads, because you always do. Otherwise, if you went there before Amelia, I don't think you'd ever go back.
You would,
because there's no need to.
There's no reason. The only reason I could see to go back is if you were maybe grinding or something. If you were just like doing a run of Hemwick Charnel Lane for Blood Echoes or something.
No, there are better areas to do that. Definitely,
there are way better, particularly at that point in the game. I mean,
you don't want to deal with those shadow people.
No, Old Yharnam is a good place to grind at that point. You know, Old Yharnam's brilliant, I find. Although you don't want to get on Dura's bad side.
I actually think the Forbidden Woods, the snake part, is a good place to grind. If you go through that, kill everything, you get about 49,000-ish.
That when I first played the game, that was my go-to area.
Yeah, I could see that easily.
It's also one of my favourite areas of the whole game because it is so drastically different from everywhere else. You know, up until that point, everywhere's been fairly urban or suburban. You know, you've been in the city, you've been in Hemwick Charnel Lane, which is like a hamlet, like a village. But you go into the Forbidden Woods and suddenly everything is different. Everything is different. And I love how labyrinthine it is. You know, it all looks the same. It's very difficult to pathfind.
Yeah. The fact it's so wide as well. There's a left path, which is grass. There's the center path, which is the cobblestone, and then there's the right side, which again is just more grass and hedges. Yeah. It's easy to get lost in there. Like when I watched your first playthrough of it, and subsequently other people's, because I wasn't playing it myself, my mind found it very difficult to path in my head.
Yeah.
How that area was, how it just worked.
Yep.
When you do it yourself, obviously, when you play the game yourself, you're taking the information better. But just watching a video of it, I even say when I'm there in my one of the parts that are coming up in my things, I find it if you find yourself get lost mentally, don't worry, I did too.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Absolutely. I mean, there are like landmarks and there are little signposts that determine where you might be, but it is sprawling, that area. It's massive, for one thing. It is absolutely huge. That run from the Lantern to Bergenworth is massive. It is absolutely huge. And also the fact that the foliage, the gravestones and whatnot make it feel very much... It's like you're treading the same path over again.
Yes, yeah.
Which is very deliberate. What they're trying to do is evoke the sense of a nightmare.
Yeah, I always thought it was more like the idea of getting lost in the woods, kind of like the Dark Harvest, the book Dark Harvest from Warhammer, or even what was it? The Ritual, the movie The Ritual.
Yeah.
Where you're just walking and you have we been here before? That kind of idea of being lost and away from civilization and safety. Because it's a big run to get to a Lantern from there.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing of being lost in the woods as well, that sparks something very particular in the human brain, doesn't it? You know, it's where a lot of our dark fairy tales and nursery rhymes and whatnot come from, that fundamental fear. And also, there's something very dreamlike about it, very nightmare-like, you know, being stalked through the dark woods by something predatory. It's very cool, very cool. And Bloodborne's very good at that, I find. It like evoking a genuine sense of being trapped in a nightmare.
Did it give you the same when you played it the first time? Did you associate that feeling with what was that game? Into the Dark Wood? Is that what it was called?
Oh, Darkwood. Darkwood.
Did it give you that same kind of feeling?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, that's a really good shout. Actually, I mean, they're totally different games. Like you couldn't get two more different games in terms of the way they play, the way they're structured, but the themes are very similar, and the ethos of them is very similar. I mean, what I find in Bloodborne, because it sets up this notion that you might be dreaming, you might be hallucinating, but there are also layers of dreamed reality that actually have real effects, like have physical effects in the outside world. It's difficult to tell what's real and what isn't. Like it actually makes the reality that you're presented with unreliable. And I love that. I love that. You're never certain of what's real and what's not. In fact, what happens in Bloodborne is the very notion of reality just flies apart.
Because you are technically dreaming all the time.
But
yeah, it's almost a waking dream.
It's
in a sense. It's bizarre.
And then you throw in the notion of the old ones or the great ones. And the great ones are creatures for whom the notion of dreaming and reality, of fantasy and reality, don't matter.
Yes, it just simply is.
They operate in these realities as though they are real, regardless of whether they're dreamed or not. And they can even dream their own realities, you know? So, I mean, you get things like the Hunter's Nightmare, for example, which is this weird metaphysical plane that's cobbled together from bits of broken memory, from hallucinations, from forbidden history. And what you've got in there are real hunters, so real, actual people have become lost in that nightmare.
Yeah.
Which it's wonderful, and I love the fact that the game never explains it.
I was going to ask, do you assume that the hunters in there are dreamers who got lost and never came back, and thus their bodies potentially died, so they were trapped in the nightmare? Or were they real people who just happened to somehow stumble into the nightmare through whatever means?
That's it, isn't it? That's the question.
Yeah,
because the game never explains. It does tell you that they are, when a hunter goes like mad with the blood, when they can't discern between beasts and men anymore, when they're kind of becoming bestial themselves, that's where they get lost. They somehow wander into the hunter's nightmare, and that's it. They become these mad, aimless creatures who are essentially just monsters themselves. But at the same time, sane hunters can wander there too. And there are even hunters in there who are, you know, for a given definition of sanity, entirely sane, who have a purpose.
Perhaps it's for waking hunters or real hunters at that point. Maybe it's something to do with the amount of insight they have.
Maybe. Because
since insight has a massive impact on that world. Massive impact.
Absolutely. And the fact that the amygdala is the thing that sends you there.
Yeah.
That's interesting as well, because that for me, one of the key questions of Bloodborne is what the hell are the amygdala doing?
Yeah, is it one entity that has multiple bodies, or is it multiple entities that are individuals? Because we don't know that either.
This is it. You know, you obviously you see multiple iterations of the amygdala, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're all separate entities.
Yeah, it could be like Legion, couldn't it? It could just be one thing, one being.
And of course, because it's like atemporal, you know, it's a great one, so it can exist in different places at the same time.
Oh, that would be interesting if it is one being, but it's all of them at different stages in time that are all in one location. Because that would mean that a potential for it is always going to die to you.
Yes, right.
As long as you go into the nightmare.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Maybe that's it. And maybe it knows that, and maybe all of this is as a result of that. Who knows? Because you also find it again, don't you? If you go into the Hunter's Nightmare, you find the amygdala again. You find it as though it looks as though it's crashed down from one of the upper layers of dreaming and is broken and fossilized on this bridge.
Yeah, and maybe that's the one you kill?
Maybe that's it. Who knows? Because that one drops down as well.
Yeah.
When you first fight it, that thing drops down from another layer of whatever nightmare you're in.
What's above that level again? Do we know? I'm not sure.
Above that level of the nightmare, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, because we know what's below that. Below that is the ocean, if I remember right.
Yeah, because if you go into the Nightmare Frontier, you know the bridge that leads to the arena where you fight the amygdala?
That's right, yeah.
If you look out to your left, what you see is this vast expanse of mist and nothing. But rising through it are what look to be the masts of ships.
That's right, yeah.
So it's fair to say that the ocean, or rather certainly the fishing hamlet, is below that layer of dreaming. But potentially there's infinite layers.
Yeah.
So who knows? And even Yharnam is on one of those layers. You see it. You see it through the water when you're approaching the fishing hamlet. If you look down, you can see the rooftops of Yharnam.
Yeah.
So who's to say what's dreaming and what isn't at this point?
And then at that point, does it loop back round, or is the real world the bottom of the level? I doubt it. I have a feeling it'd be one of those things that's like Ouroboros. It just kind of loops back around at some point.
Or it's turtles all the way down. It's just layers and layers and layers of existence. I mean, in that regard, the metaphysics and the existential scape, I suppose, that Bloodborne sets up is just the potential for storytelling is immense.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I think my issue, not an issue, but one thing I did miss from it that was referenced in Dark Souls 1 is Chester.
Oh, if you remember Chester. Oh, I would have loved Chester to have turned up.
or his outfit at the very least.
That would have been wonderful. Because I mean, were they developing Bloodborne at that time, or did they have ideas for Bloodborne? Because Chester certainly would suggest so.
I would say that at the very least Miyazaki, while making Dark Souls, probably had the idea of making Bloodborne.
He was probably
because then he didn't make Dark Souls 2, as we said earlier. He went straight on to making Bloodborne, so he must have had some idea.
Yeah, so and Chester is an overt reference because he looks nothing like anyone else in the entirety of Dark Souls.
Because we do get a Sekiro reference in Bloodborne as well, don't we?
We do. I can't quite remember what it is.
It's in the DLC.
Yeah.
You get an Eastern guy's outfit.
That's right. Yes, he's one of the hunters in the jail, isn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
After you defeat Ludwig.
Yes, and then you need to find a key in the sanatorium.
That's right, and he's gone mad, hasn't he? Isn't he like Yamamura? Hunter Yamamura, yeah. You can actually talk to him. He's one of the only hunters you can actually talk to in there. And when you actually open the door, I think he's bashing his head against the wall.
Yeah, he's gone nuts.
He's lost it, hasn't he? Which, to be fair, he is actually in one of the worst areas of the Hunter's Nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the corpse pile.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god. I've actually done. I mean, I actually did a run of not the entirety of the Hunter's Nightmare, but all the way up to Ludwig, just so I could pick up certain weapons that I use all the way through the game. The Beast Cutter, which I absolutely love, and the Scythe, the Beast Hunter Scythe.
The Beast Scythe, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love it to bits. So I've got them, but there is no way in hell I'm attempting Ludwig at this level.
He's rough. Have you ever fought him on his own? On your own?
Oh yeah. I've defeated him on my own twice.
Right.
And that's it.
He doesn't let you cast arcane spells, which made my build difficult.
I can imagine.
I'm hoping I'll have a much easier time shooting him a bit and having the Chikage. I should have an easier time.
You know what? I don't think Ludwig is ever an easier time. He's
actually, I have seen people do really well with the whirligig.
The whirligig saw, really?
Yeah, because it does. I think it's meant to do extra damage against beasts, and it has a fire effect on it as well.
Right. Well, I've got the whirligig saw now, so I might actually build that up a little bit.
Have you leveled it, and do you have a build for it to maximize
it? That's it. Probably not a build to maximize it, no.
Yeah, because I think it's strength, isn't it?
Oh well, my strength's pretty good, so I might be all right, you know.
Yeah, you might be okay. Yeah,
I do love the whirligig saw. In fact, I used that when I first fought Lawrence.
Oh yeah, that would do well against him. I think he'd be a bit higher defense just because he's fire based, but
because you can just keep pounding the damage on him, it really works well. Especially when his lower half is destroyed and he's just crawling around. You can just basically concentrate the thing on him. You get inside the inner curve of his body and just hold the button down, and it just eats his health away. It's really good, really good.
To win.
And it's one of the only tactics I've found that does work against Lawrence.
I found Lawrence incredibly easy when I was doing the arcane build, because he was basically the cleric beast. He's not that. I don't think he's too difficult to avoid. And then when he becomes a half a man, shall we say? I just stood back and shot him with magic, and he died very quickly.
You know what? I don't know whether it was my build or what, but when I first played Bloodborne and when I first fought Lawrence, he is the boss that gave me the most trouble.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I think the reason he's as hard as he is because if you don't have long range, you have to be close, and you're going to get gobbed by lava, and that shoots your health.
He can kill you in one combo, regardless of how much health you've got. He will kill you in one good go.
Oh yeah. But because I could stand back and shoot him with magic, that negated all of his offense to nothing.
That is interesting, because I've heard a lot of people say that there are tactics you can use against Lawrence. One thing I will say with Lawrence is his tells are really easy.
Yes.
Like he preempts all of his attacks. Really, it telegraphs them just so clearly, whereas Ludwig just doesn't.
Yeah, I think that's. It can't be deliberate, but maybe they went, okay, after Ludwig, let's make him a little bit easier to predict.
Ludwig, maybe so.
is not the hardest to predict, but you fight and die to him enough times, you do start picking up some stuff. But he's really, like, his tells are very tiny, and he acts on them very quickly.
Yeah. So they're hard to discern from one another, aren't they? Like, you might think he's going to do one attack, and actually he's going to do another. Yeah. And also, he's got one of the biggest, the largest amounts of different attacks, I find. So, definitely. Like, his normal attacks are very, very, very hard to predict. Is he going to slash that way? Is he going to slash this way? You know, is he going to kick out? It's very difficult to tell.
Yeah.
But what I love about Ludwig more than anything is it's how horrific he is.
He's not a well man.
Oh my god! When you first find him in that corpse pile, and I've showed a couple of friends actually. I like Ray Curran. Ray loves Bloodborne. He loves Bloodborne, but can't play it. He's not very good at it. So I sort of showed him how it works, you know. And when we first found Ludwig, his reaction was amazing.
Yeah.
It was really like, what the shit is that?
It is like someone during the design stage was drawing a horse and then spilt a load of coffee on the work and went, oh, that'll do for a monster.
It's fine, yeah. Let's put like horse legs coming out everywhere. Let's give him another mouth that's full of eyes. Why not? You know. But it's also what he represents. I love the fact that within the bounds of the Hunter's Nightmare, these saintly figures, you know, these founders of the Hunters and of the Healing Church have become the most corrupt, the most monstrous of all the monsters in the game.
Well, he had to have been killed in that form in the real world as well, since he found his skull in the church.
That's
so
right.
He's now forever living, well, not forever because he killed him, but for however long he did live as that monster within two worlds, not just one, which is kind of sad.
It is, it really is. And that element of tragedy is throughout the fight, isn't it?
Do you think when you kill him, it doesn't release him, but it pushes him down to a different layer of the nightmare?
I think that's quite likely. I mean, at that point, he is a beast, he's not a hunter, so maybe it does release him. I mean,
maybe.
It can't. I mean, even if it doesn't, even if he just dies or whatever, it can hardly be any worse.
But if you put it, could not my concern, because you know, but something maybe to be worried about for him as a character is he never escapes it ever because he is locked in the nightmare. Yeah, maybe he's set free once you slay the Orphan of Kos, though, since the nightmare is slain at that point. Maybe he's then.
And there is a suggestion, isn't there? The Orphan of Kos is what's anchoring everything.
Yeah,
because that's the sin made manifest, isn't it? It's the abortive Great One that wouldn't have been abortive if the hunters and the scholars of Bergenworth had just left Kos alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is a point, actually. Maybe that's it. Maybe that... And again, that's another area where, bizarrely, Bloodborne, for all of its horror, and there is such horror in the old hunters in particular, there is this air of hopefulness, isn't there?
Yeah.
When you release the Orphan of Kos, when you actually slay its spirit and set it free to the ocean again, that kind of suggests that the horror of the Hunter's Nightmare has been done with.
Yeah, I wonder then if that means, from a story perspective, obviously the game perspective, it has to persist, but from a story perspective, whether that means that nightmare would dissolve out of existence or whether it would still kind of persist.
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because I imagine a lot of it now would persist because of the hunters that are there.
Oh, because of the people who are there, they're almost like a battery source.
Yeah, that would be my guess anyway, because it is kind of created by them, isn't it? You see that at the beginning, you know, at the beginning of the Hunter's Nightmare, when you've got these ragged, wild beasts around that they're just endlessly slaying and that cower away from them. So maybe that's the case, or maybe not. Maybe it'll reform into a different shape or something.
Yeah, maybe it just needs something else powerful to recoalesce itself to be its new source, its new king, in a strange way.
Maybe so. And you've also got, I mean, bear in mind, it's also connected directly to the ocean.
Yeah.
So there are great ones that could just sort of float in, you know. You could even have like a parasitic great one setting up shop there.
And then we connect it back to Dark Souls 3.
Yeah, wouldn't that be fun, eh? Wouldn't that be amazing if that's... I mean, if they did... I mean, I know there's been clamouring for like a Bloodborne 2 for God knows how long. My guess is if
5 years
or
more?
if they ever do one, it will be for the next generation of consoles. That's absolutely there's no doubt in my mind. But if they were going to go somewhere with it, that would be a fun way to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what they could do. I mean, there's so many potentials. There's so many potentials with this mythology. But
the easiest thing to do is to, I guess, go from a base of a H.P. Lovecraft story that you haven't referenced, and then move from that point on. Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know. Yeah, it's difficult. But then again, we don't know what the Elder Rings.
Of course.
Is it singular? Multiple?
Elden Ring, I think. It's Elden Ring, I think.
Yeah, we don't know what that's going to be. It's not Dark Souls, but will it be connected to Dark Souls? Because it doesn't sound like it'll be Bloodborne. It sounds like it'll be dark fantasy.
And what we've seen thus far looks way more dark fantasy than Bloodborne. And
of course, George, seen anything.
No, I mean, we've seen, like, there's a very short trailer that's got, like, a knightly figure in it. And that's about it. That's about it. But George R. Martin's involved, isn't he? George R. Martin is actually writing part of Elden Ring.
Oh, so you're saying it'll never be finished?
There's that, it'll never ever be finished.
Yeah.
But that also suggests that it's going to be dark fantasy as opposed to like the more horror of Bloodborne. But who knows? Who knows? I mean, maybe it is linked to Dark Souls. Who knows?
I wonder if it'll be as rapey as his usual work, I would
say. Yeah, one wonders, eh?
Yeah.
One wonders. But the thing is, I mean, what are they going to do with it again? Because Dark Souls 3 really closes off that metaphysics. It's done.
Miyazaki did suggest that was it for Dark Souls. Yeah. He was done with Dark Souls, so I don't know.
It's fair. I mean, at the end. I don't know how you top like the end of Dark Souls 3. You know, where all reality collapses. I don't know what you do with it.
Nor do I. I have no idea.
I mean, again, what Dark Souls 3 sets up, certainly in the DLC, is this infinite regress. So you have these painted worlds, and as long as you've got the right materials and the right people to paint them, you have endless worlds.
Yeah.
Endless worlds. I mean, what I thought they were going to do maybe is maybe there'd be a painting littered around that looked like Yharnam.
Ah, yeah.
Or something like that.
Oh yeah, I think maybe a reason they didn't is because they seem to like to have just the references to future stuff, and maybe there was a thing in Dark Souls 3 which is a reference to Elden Ring that we just don't know about yet.
That's possible, yes, entirely.
Or maybe there is
possible.
Sekiro. Again, I haven't played Sekiro, so I don't know what the random kind of things in that are.
It's a weird one, Sekiro. It's not quite as dense as the other games. The lore isn't quite as implied as it is in the other games, you know. It's a bit more direct and a bit more literal. It's still there. Okay. It's definitely still there. There is that element where, you know, there are certain details that you pick up from enemy placement and architecture, and the storytelling is still ambient to a certain degree, but it's way more plot-based than Dark Souls or Bloodborne ever was.
Right.
So you are definitely going from point A to point B, and then from point B to point C, and there's a definite narrative arc that you're following all the way through, and it's much more clear. It's much more clear what you're doing. It's like basically a revenge story, you know. But it's good. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot. I didn't enjoy it as much as the other games. And that's not because of any technical aspect. The technicals are great. I mean, it's like, in technical terms, it's actually really amazing. It's just that it doesn't have the elements that I like. You know, it doesn't have the grim, dark mythology and the metaphysics and all that kind of thing, which is something that Bloodborne does. For me, my favourite game in the entire, every single, the FromSoft canon completely is Bloodborne.
I could understand that. It does have a really interesting story. The thing that stopped me, well, because I'm, like I say multiple times, I didn't do Sekiro. The thing that stopped me getting it was the fact that I heard multiple people say there wasn't multiple ways to play the game. No. It was very much you do parrying and that's the game.
Pretty much, yeah. That is another thing. It's less various than Dark Souls and Bloodborne. There's not really. You do builds and things, and there's a little bit of variation, but you do fight most of the enemies in the same way. You find out how to parry them.
Yeah, and that was like parrying is one of the things I never really did in Dark Souls. Yeah. obviously I do it more in Bloodborne, but it's less risky to do it in Bloodborne.
Yeah, definitely.
In Sekiro, it's like you parry and that's the game.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think because then it doesn't lend itself in my eyes as much to replayability, because you do an arcane build, you do a blood build, strength, and with Sekiro, it seems like you just play the game.
That's
like, okay, well,
that's
there you
pretty
go.
true.
And I think that's kind of a shame.
Yeah, that is pretty true. It's more of a one-shot game than the others. I mean,
yeah.
all the Dark Souls games are worth replaying because there are things you miss. There are different details that you go over again. The game changes drastically in some instances when you play it again. Bloodborne is exactly the same. Sekiro, not so much. Not so much.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant one-shot game. I mean, it is really beautiful, and technically, there are definitely elements that I have no doubt that they will take from Sekiro and put into whatever comes next. Into Elden Ring, into maybe if there is another Dark Souls or another Bloodborne, they'll definitely do that. I have no doubt. But it's. I don't want to say it's my least favourite. That would be Dark Souls 2, definitely. But it's the one.
What about Demon Souls?
Oh, actually, yeah, Demon Souls. Fair enough, because Demon Souls is the first of this lot, so it is still very raw.
It's the rawest experience. It has all the elements that you come to love, but it is ropey.
It's raw as hell, isn't it? And also, it has some of the most frustrating mechanics imaginable. The game is. I mean, it's meaner for one thing. It's meaner than most of the Dark Souls games. The way it when you die, there are penalties that not only make it more difficult, but are more or less permanent.
Yeah.
It's evil. It is absolutely evil, that game. I mean, in many respects, Bloodborne is one of the more forgiving in that regard.
Yeah, I'd say so, because you don't really, as long as you get your blood echoes back, there's not a huge loss.
Yeah, it's not like Dark Souls where you dehumanize and you lose half your health and your stats go down and whatnot.
And it's not Dark Souls 2 where you perpetually lose health again and again.
Yeah, it's just one of the elements I really disliked.
It's
one of the elements.
I don't understand why. I mean, I do, because it is a really bad punishment, but it makes the game even harder. So it almost punishes you for not being good. And how do you get better at the game if you have even less health than before?
Right.
It's interesting. I can see why they did it, because, like I say, it's a fantastic punishment, but it's almost too harsh.
At the same time, it makes it more difficult to get to the place you were, so you can learn again, so you can actually learn what's going on. And then you factor in, especially if you play Scholar of the First Sin, you've got the multiple enemies coming at you from multiple angles, and it's just no. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are areas where the other Dark Souls games do that, and Bloodborne does that too, but they never feel cheap to me. Bloodborne never feels cheap to me.
Is there a cheap point? The only time I think it ever feels cheap are the bell ringing women in a certain depth of the like. I was watching your part 11, which is up at the moment. The bell ringing women you've got there, they're nothing.
Yeah.
The hardest I fought was in what's after the hinterland.
Oh, is it the
brown one?
Is it the Loran chalice?
Maybe it's the brown palette is what I'd call it. And I faced multiple dungeons where I'd open a door, I'd hear a bell in the distance. There were 2 bell ringing women, and they'd summon spiders.
Yes.
And they could summon 5 spiders a piece.
Yeah.
And 5 spiders in general is hard to deal with. 10. And then trying to kill two bell ringing women in the far off distance, I'd say that's cheap.
That's pretty
cheap.
Horrific. Yeah. And in fact, the Chalice dungeons. I suppose we have to talk about the Chalice dungeons. They're the weakest element of Bloodborne, without a shadow of a doubt. They are the weakest element, and they are the element.
Such a shame.
Yeah, there's potential for the Chalice dungeons to be very interesting. I mean, if they do another Bloodborne game, I hope they're in them.
Same.
I do hope they're in them, but they could make them so much more interesting. What they really should do is make them like the Binding of Isaac. Make them randomized, but make them truly randomized. Make them interesting, more tile sets, more interesting environments. More unique environments.
That was the issue. There's not nearly enough tile variety. And in some areas, the hinterland one, there's one massive area that's covered in poison. There's usually a giant undead giant with a cannon on his arm. Yep. And the problem with that area is there's nothing in it. There's nothing in it of real visual interest because it's still super dark, which makes sense. It's a cave, but whatever. But there's usually no items in there that are really interesting. There's no real interesting visual element in there apart from the giant who you've probably seen multiple times before. So it's like
I know what you mean. What they could have done with the Chalice dungeons is made them a bit more narrative. So give you a goal, give you more of a goal than just pulling the lever or getting the getting more materials to just do the next Chalice dungeon.
I hated that aspect. I hated it.
And it's a shame because I don't hate the Chalice dungeons. I think they can be quite fun, and I like the unique bosses. In fact, some of the unique bosses I love. I absolutely love them. The Thumerian Descendant, who I fought recently, loved him.
Yes.
Absolutely loved him. Not only the way he looks, which is amazing.
He looks like Bram Stoker's Dracula. He should have been at Canehurst.
He so should have been at Canehurst. He looks just like Bram Stoker's Dracula. But I also love the way you fought him. You have to keep that very particular distance so he doesn't start doing particular attacks. I thought that was brilliant. I thought that was really, really interesting. And that's true of a lot of the bosses in the Chalice dungeons. It's a pain in the arse getting to them.
Yeah, and some of them, I can't remember what it's called. It's a big beast, and later on you fight him again, but he's lost his head and he's got a giant parasite.
Yes.
Which, oddly enough, thinking about it, is very similar to the Great Ape from Sekiro, right?
Very actually, yeah. It's called the something soul, the beast something.
Something beast.
Something beast. Yeah, I can't quite remember off the top of my head.
I didn't like him because his attacks felt very quick and did a lot of damage. And could kill you. He could kill you in one punch. He'd wind up this big attack, and it would track you like mad. It would be like a homing rocket, go tink, and he'd go.
You were done, basically.
Yeah.
Some of the enemies that are repeated from the main game, some of the bosses that are repeated from the main game, are so difficult in the Chalice dungeons.
Which ones for you? Oh yeah, Romton. Oh god, especially in that contained area, so it's even harder to run away from her. I hate her.
Oh my god, I needed to be very tactical when I fought.
You have to get rid of the spiders. You have to, and then you go in and hit her, and then you have to run away and pray that she doesn't do the explosion that's just in random geysers around you, and you hope you do. I ran over so many of them and had no time to react.
Also, she's got so much more health than she does in the main game. So much more health. It takes forever.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing with that fight is it's actually a little bit dull.
Yeah, that's the problem, because you just, like I say, you're cleaning up spiders, then you're just waiting for her to not do an attack where you can then run in and hit her. I think it's a better design in the main game, just because of that open area.
Just because of the area, absolutely. Absolutely.
The Thumerian Queen's a really good fight.
Oh, Yana.
It's not the best. The what, sorry? Oh,
Yana, isn't it? Yeah, she is the Queen of Yharnam that it's named after.
She's pretty good fight. Pretty good compared to, again, Rom. I didn't like the aspect of her being able to stun you if the baby's crying. I think was what was going on.
That's it, If Murgo's crying, she's worse, definitely. But, I mean, and it's a brilliant fight narratively, of course, because you meet her in the main game, and it's interesting to find out where she comes from and all that sort of thing. But there could have been something else. There could have been some
I heard people say it felt like an unfinished element, and I agree.
I think that's probably true. Yes. There's a couple of elements like that in the game. Items that you find that really do nothing. Like the Yharnam stone that you get from killing Yharnam. It does absolutely nothing.
And it hints that there's something special about it, and there probably was going to be. Would that have been DLC, or would that have been just stuff that they had to cut from the game? It's not as bad as Lost Izalith from Dark Souls 1, which is just...
Oh, no!
There's nothing here.
Lost Izalith, I mean, and they've admitted it, haven't they? They've admitted they had no time, so all they did was copy and pasted loads of demons, like the same tile sets, and that's it. That's what they did. it's such a shame because the concept of Lost Izalith is great.
Yeah, and there's just nothing there. It's empty, pretty much.
It is a shame. It is a shame.
And that's one of the great, not great insults, but it's one of the shames of the Dark Souls 1 remaster.
Yeah, they could have gone in and done something, couldn't they?
Totally. Especially because they charge, for the most part, full price for it.
I mean, don't get me wrong, it's Dark Souls, so it's going to be good. It's great fun to play, and, you know, Dark Souls 1 is so much fun. It is so much fun to play. But the Lost Izalith part is a chore, because it's just, there's not enough stuff to make it interesting.
And the fact that you can, especially when you're just walking up there, you can look down at the hardened lava bed and just see 6 Tauros demons just next to each other, not doing anything, and you're just like...
And it's like, come on. And the sadness is it leads in really well. So you get you get these amazing boss characters that you fight early on that are great, you know, and you think, oh my god, this is going to be amazing. This world of demons, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just not. It's just not. I even like the concept of the Witch of Izalith. You know, I think the concept and even like the physical design of the creature is amazing, but the way it's implemented is cheap as all hell.
Yeah, I don't mind the actual fight, even though it's super unsatisfying. I don't mind. I think it's the lead up is disappointing. I mean, in an alternate world where Lost Izalith was terrible, I think I would probably complain about the boss fight now, but just from where we are at the moment, it's like, the boss fight's fine. I guess it makes sense, but it would have been nice if there was more to it. But if the area was better, that would have been far more interesting for me.
Absolutely, because all of the other really... I mean, and also, the Witch of Izalith is such a big character in the lore. You know, she's one of the original souls, isn't she? You know, she's one of the gods of this world. And, you know, the creator of pyromancy and of demons. She's the mother of demons. So, there's so much there, and it's just not really fulfilled, sadly.
Yeah.
And I find that a great shame. I mean, it's another thing Bloodborne does really well. The framing of all the monsters and of all the bosses in particular gives you such a sense of what they are and why they are where they are. I mean, I particularly think of characters like Ibrietas.
Yeah.
Where it's
this is a question I was thinking about while having a poop on the toilet.
Oh, okay.
So you get the blood, or theoretically the church gets blood from Ibrietas, yeah? Yep.
That's
how do they get it?
Yeah, where does it come from? I mean,
do they milk her?
Does she give it? I mean, is it like that's one of the questions about Ibrietas. You know how they find her in the Chalice dungeons? Yeah, they find her in like the remains of ancient Thumeria, and all of the other great ones have ascended. They've all gone on to different planes of existence, but Ibrietas has been left behind.
She's hanging about doing her nails, reading OK magazine.
But why?
Well, you know, gotta find out what's happening in Corrie.
Yeah, right. The Yarnum equivalent of Coronation Street. That'd be fun because all the doors would be closed, and you'd have to everyone would be talking through their doors, wouldn't they? You know? Yeah, that'd be fun. But like, why? That's one of the questions. Why was Ibrietas left behind?
Yeah.
Is she a flawed Great One?
Well, she's, what is it, Mother of the Cosmos?
Daughter of the Cosmos.
Daughter of the Cosmos, yeah.
I mean, what does that imply? Is she like the daughter... I mean, Daughter of the Cosmos, because Cosm is the Cosmos. Cos is the sort of Great One that represents the Cosmos. So is she the daughter of Cos?
And if that's the case, was her mother-daughter spat? Like, for whatever that means for Great Ones.
Right,
did she not live up to her charge of being a Great One, and this was exiled?
Like abandoned?
She just went... Yeah.
Who knows? Or did she choose to stay? Did she choose to stay on the earthly plane for some reason? And yeah,
could it be something to do with Yarnum, the queen?
Who knows? Because we do know that Yarnum is the mother of Murgo.
Yeah.
Who is the daughter of Erden, the son of Erden. So, is Ibrietas somehow like the sister of Erden in that regard, like the half sister of Murgo? Who knows? And is she like, in that regard, is she manipulating events so that you eventually end up in the Nightmare of Mensis, so you free Murgo?
Yeah.
That's what happens, isn't it? When you kill the Wet Nurse, you free Murgo from the Nightmare.
Yeah, it's true.
So, who knows? And also, what is her relationship to the Healing Church? We know that the members of the Healing Church find her, and they take her somehow to the Upper Cathedral Ward. She somehow ends up in the Upper Cathedral Ward. Now, is she a prisoner up there, or is she manipulating events from up there?
Well, if we're going by the idea that she's trying to get you to kill the wet nurse, then I would imagine she is manipulating them by allowing them to take her blood, because she knows what's going to proceed
happen. To. Yeah, right. It's so difficult, but again, all of that is assumption and inference. We just don't know.
You don't know what great ones are thinking. They're on a level above humans.
Exactly. They operate on a level that we can't perceive. So who knows? Then you've got other agendas going on as well. So you've got the College of Mensis that are trying to replicate the experiments of Byrgenwerth. So they deliberately create a synthetic nightmare plane, which is the nightmare that Mikolash is holding together, basically, the host of the nightmare. And into that nightmare, they are deliberately drawing and trapping Great Ones. So you have the brain of Mensis and Murgo.
I found they, at least from my perspective, devolved very quickly into cult-ish behaviours from, again, Lovecraft's work, rather than... I can't imagine they thought they were doing it for the greater benefit apart from themselves.
No, I think when it comes to the College of Mensis, it's for their own transcendence, definitely. Yeah. It's for themselves, That's what Mikolash is certainly trying to do, because, of course, in order to fuel the whatever ritual creates the Nightmare of Mensis, all the other scholars end up dead.
Do you think they knew that was the case, or do you think it was one of those, again, the famous cult things, drink the Kool-Aid, everyone dies kind of deal?
I imagine there would have been some amongst them who were very happy, who didn't care, as long as they managed to create the nightmare. Maybe they're not dead, maybe they were just drawn into it, because Mikolash is dead as well.
Yes.
Of course, his corpse is the gateway into the nightmare. So maybe they did it happily, knowing that, or hoping that they were going to attain some higher state or something.
I would assume on the level of people that were dead, and there were clearly children who were dead as well, I would probably lean on the fact that they didn't know they'd never be able to return.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you could get that number of people to happily kill themselves.
And there are a lot.
He knew.
Oh, he definitely knew. Yeah, Mikolash knew. I mean, for all of his insanity, he is genuinely connected to the higher planes, isn't he? Because it works. Yeah. It does work, it draws down Great Ones. It's just that, sadly, I think the Great Ones aren't quite what people assume them to be. They're not quite as transcendent. I mean, you look at the brain of Mensis, for example. I mean, what the bloody hell?
Yeah, it's not a great life.
No.
Seemingly.
No, it's a very twisted, distorted thing, and it's so impotent, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the can't brain, do anything.
Yeah, it can't do anything. It just hangs in that tower until you drop it, of course, and then end up killing it.
You don't have to.
You don't have to, no, you just leave it in its pit.
That's an active choice.
True. You just leave it in its pit forever if you want. Mm-hmm. And then you've got Murgo, of course, who is a formless Great One. Murgo, alongside his father, Erden, they seem to be the most legitimately divine of the Great Ones, because they've transcended form altogether. They are shapeless, they're formless. And of course you hear Murgo all the way through the game, depending on how much insight you've got. Not only do you hear the lullaby of Murgo, almost from the very beginning, because that's what the music box plays, of course. You also hear his cries throughout the game, which is very interesting.
Do you think Murgo's meant to be in a similar position to the player? Obviously not the player itself, but from the kind of outside the game, as it were, watching.
Yeah, it's almost like a meta commentary almost on the player itself. Could be. You can interpret it that way, definitely.
Yeah.
But what I love is the fact that you never do see what Murgo is.
No.
Because he doesn't have a form. And I love the fact that, you get these implications of what's happening. The fact that you meet Yharnam outside of Murgo's loft, and she's staring up at the loft as though to say, free him, let him be. And And what does that say about the wet nurse? Is the wet nurse like... Because the wet nurse is ostensibly protecting Murgo.
Yes.
But the wet nurse is also holding him in place.
Yeah, a guard of sorts.
Yeah.
And is she guarding him from old ones, from the church? Is she trying to let Murgo grow into physical form?
Who knows? Who knows? I mean, that's actually one of the biggest and consistent mysteries of Bloodborne is what are the intentions of the old ones? Because it seems to me that they're contradictory. You know, they're not all of one mind. No. So, like, the amygdala obviously have some intention in being there, and they're drawn down by whatever's going on in Yargul. Whatever the hell that happens to be. Like, they actually see... It seems to me that the bell ringers and cultists in Yargul, the way I interpret what they're doing is they're trying to recreate some of the work of Byrgenwerth and also the work of the College of Mensis, which is itself a derivation of Byrgenwerth's work. But they're trying to either summon or create a synthetic Great One, which is the One Reborn. That's the way I interpret it, anyway.
Yeah, I did see the amygdala as perhaps a bit more antagonistic, as much as they can be, I suppose, compared to some of the other Great Ones. Mainly because they hang about the real world and seem to help drive insanity up very quickly.
That does seem to be their function. They're either attracted by it, so it's like they feed on it, isn't it?
Yeah, and of course at the same time, almost like a weird perpetual circle.
Yeah.
Kind of like a fly, I suppose, kind of flying to garbage and gestating it, and making more maggots and whatnot.
That's kind of the impression I get of the amygdala, and I also think that maybe they're fueling it as well, so they may be feeding forbidden knowledge into the people of Yargul, into the people of Mensis. Yeah, I love all that stuff. I love it to bits. I mean, the One Reborn is probably the grossest monster in the whole thing.
Yeah, because it's not natural. Like Ibriitas is not obviously natural to our world, but it is its own being. It's not created. While like you say, that thing is something that we're trying to make.
Yeah, and also failing. I mean, it's if it is a Great One, then its aspects are hideous, and it's deformed and it's mad. You know, it's crazy that thing. When it's born, it's like oh my god. You know, the cosmos weeping. It's grossness.
And I bet it can't smell too good either. I can't imagine most of Yharnam, as you play that game, would be a great scent to the nose.
Well, that's another thing I get from the game. There is this wonderful textural quality because of the way they've designed it. The environments look like they smell, don't they?
Oh, definitely.
The characters do too. Especially, I like your character. When you're playing, your hunter gets filthy. They get disgusting as you play. But some of the creatures look like they smell worse than others. That's definitely the case.
Have you ever encountered the super rare enemy in the Chalice dungeon? Do you know the one I mean?
The tunnel digger, is it called, or something like that?
I think so.
Like a mole thing. It's like a wormy mole thing with tendrils. And I've never encountered it. I've seen it, but I've never encountered it.
Same.
I mean, there are other things you can encounter in the Chalice dungeons, aren't there, that are super rare? Like sometimes you'll encounter some of the bosses wandering around. In the main Chalice dungeon, the Thumerian Descendant.
Oh god, he can just be wandering around. Oh my god, that'd be a nightmare to run across.
You can just find him, apparently. In very rare builds of the Chalice dungeons, you can just find the Thumerian Descendant.
Oh dear.
Which is not
That has to be on a super low level of one of the higher Chalice dungeons.
Oh god, it would be horrible, wouldn't it? It would be just horrible, because he's a difficult boss.
Yeah.
At the best of times.
Now I know you can find the beast, the one that throws fireballs. He can just be a regular enemy, but most of the time he's just kind of asleep on the ground, and then you backstab him, so he's not too bad. The Keeper of the Old Lords, the lady who the outfit that you've got, the wizard one,
which I bloody love.
Yeah, he or she, I'm not sure. I've seen them quite a lot. Usually they hang around with at least 2 dogs, and they're a pain.
Yeah, I mean the boss itself is a pain because they've got this really weird thing where they can almost one-shot you with an attack if you attack them from the front.
Yes.
You've got to be so damn careful. You've got to bait them. It's one of those bosses where you've got to bait them and stay at the most precise distance.
quite parryable, though.
Oh yeah, very parryable.
Luckily.
Yeah, it's a damn good thing. Because trying to tackle them normally, maybe not.
Yeah. I think you can stun lock them into like backstab, throw a bottle at them, backstab, throw a bottle at them.
Right. Get them caught in a loop.
Yeah, there are some bosses where you can do that. Like the Bloodstarved Beast is one of those ones where if you throw a pungent cocktail into the corner, you can backstab it, shoot it twice with the gun, backstab it, shoot it twice with the gun, backstab it.
Oh, that's naughty.
I've seen like some people just, especially with arcane, like there was an arcane build where they just bent poor Maria over from the clock tower, and they got her in the corner of the fog door, and the tentacle to she'd stand up, tentacle, tentacle.
That is mean.
It's a hard knockdown. So when she does her power-up state, she almost had no health at that point, and then only took a few more tentacles and went down.
Oh no! A Maria of the Astral Clock Tower. You know, of all the, I mean, I'm inclined to love monsters and beasts and creatures and gods. I love all that stuff. But you know what? My favorite fight in Bloodborne is Maria.
It's like the way that they've paced the music. Is fantastic,
and it's like a dance, isn't it?
Yeah,
that's what I find. It is the perfect hunter fight, I think.
I think they tried to recreate it in a sense with the what they called the knights. What they called in Dark Souls 3. The knights with the pointy hats, followers of Artorias.
Oh, the Knights of Artorias. Yeah, I love that. I love that. The Abyss Watchers.
The Abyss Watchers, yes. I say that mainly because I think the music, for the most part, kind of hits not as well as Maria, but they also have the fire slashes as well, which is a knockback to her as well.
Of course, yeah. And that is another really beautiful fight, actually. I love the Abyss Watchers. The music. And again, the implied lore of them. The way, if you look at them closely, they are tainted by the Abyss, which is why they're killing one another.
Yeah, have to.
That's what they're supposed to do, yes. And because they're undead, they keep getting back up, so they're endlessly caught, you know? Although, I love the Abyss Watchers to bits. I will say one of the ones, and it's no, in terms of the way it works, it's no great shakes at all. It's very easy. I love Volmir.
Which one's Volmir?
Volmir is the big skeleton.
Oh, no. Who am I thinking of? Where is Volmir with his big crown and his little bangles. That's him. Yes,
love him.
Very gimmicky but fun.
I didn't know he was coming when I first played it. He scared the shit out of me.
It's so well done.
It's so clever, isn't it? You know, you emerge in that darkness after looking at the chalice.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, okay, fine. You know, you go. You know something's going to turn up, but I didn't expect it to be that big.
I don't know why, but when I played him the first time, I always thought he would have been a great creature to have on Nightmare, the TV show.
Yeah, right. I mean, even the room is set up like that, isn't it? You can imagine like what they could have had if they were doing Nightmare. They could have had him timed so like he like brings a hand down. And then the other hand comes down, and then he's vomiting or something.
Go right. Left, stab.
Yeah, brilliant. Absolute brilliant. I love him to bits, Volmir. I like the background to him as well, because it kind of suggests that he's one of the kings that's a bit like the kings that are referenced in Dark Souls 2.
Yeah, you know, I could see that.
I maybe could potentially have been one of those great kings, you know, who sat on the throne at one point.
One of my, not disappointments, but one of the things I would have liked to have seen would be not the catacombs of Carthus.
The catacombs of Carthus, yeah.
I would have liked to have seen more of an aspect of Carthus itself. That would have been nice. Yeah. Obviously, it's asking too much because it's an entirely different landscape to kind of throw in there.
Of course.
But it would have been nice to see kind of an ancient Arabian desert settlement, kind of the Dark Souls take on that.
Absolutely, because that's the impression you get from Volmir himself, isn't it?
Yeah.
He looks like a sort of an Arabic, like an ancient Persian king or something like that, perhaps.
Yeah.
And you don't really, I mean, you get references to kingdoms like that, but you don't really get to see like their architecture or anything like that. So, yeah, that'd be wonderful to see. I would love to have seen that. Of course, you don't get that in Carthus, because Carthus is just the dungeons, and it's a pain in the arse.
Yeah, lots of traps, lots of skeletons.
God, I hate Carthus. Don't get me wrong, I love Dark Souls 3, I love it to bits, but one of the areas I actually actively dislike is the Catacombs of Carthus.
It doesn't help that it's kind of like the Catacombs, the Chalice Dungeons. It's just visually very dull.
It's just all the same, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
it just goes. It feels like it goes on for a little bit too long.
Yeah. But
I do like the wizard skeletons with the little hats.
I love that too. The ones that run away.
Yes.
Yeah, they are funny. I like them a lot. And, you know, to be fair, eventually it does lead into some of the more interesting areas in the game, like Irithyll, for example. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
There is definitely that. I mean, I wonder, are they ever going to answer? Will there ever be a game where you do get some definite crossover between Bloodborne and Dark Souls, even if it's just in terms of the mythology or the lore?
Like, how much do you want? Because I think Chester's as much as you're gonna get.
I think.
I don't think it's gonna get ever more overt than that.
Yeah, I think.
Given how Miyazaki does his storytelling.
I mean, I wonder, like, if they ever did do another Bloodborne, would we explore more of the world? Because we know that Yharnam is just one city, yeah.
Yeah, this was another thing I was thinking about on the toilet. Where do you think it's set? I was thinking, like, it felt French-ish.
There's a kind of faux European thing going on.
Definitely European, yeah.
But it's non-specific, isn't it?
No, but obviously there was design notes that said they took inspiration from many different cathedrals around Europe. I think it wasn't the Sistine Chapel or anything, was it?
No, there are many different like architectural cues. Like some areas of Yharnam feel Victorian.
Yes,
some of the stacked buildings, like the urban areas in particular, the areas where people live, feel really Victorian. They feel like Victorian London almost. Whereas some of the others actually feel a lot older.
Are you talking about old Yharnam or just in normal Yharnam?
No, just in normal Yharnam itself. Some of the areas feel like they're derived from like an older version of Yharnam, which is something we do know happens, of course. You know, I mean, in the background, it actually is pointed out Yharnam is actually built upon the older versions of Yharnam, hence old Yharnam, you know, and hence the Chalice dungeons and whatnot. But yeah, it's a non-specific cobbling together of European influences. Mm-hmm. There's even like a Prague-ish quality to it.
Whereabouts would you get the Prague feel from?
Just the elaboration of the buildings. I mean, have you ever been to Prague?
No, never.
Oh god, if you ever wanted a city that feels like Yharnam in waking life,
are you saying if I go there now, I definitely get that feeling?
You would, well now, yeah, especially now.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be quarantined, and everyone's, you know, there's a sickness going around. So yes, absolutely, yes, definitely. But yeah, I mean, like you get implications of the wider world. I mean, even you're Hunter, of course. Your character is from the outer world. You're an outsider.
That's right, yeah.
So what other kingdoms are there? What other worlds are there? And how do these other kingdoms relate to the Blood?
Well, we know for sure that there is an Asian one of sorts because of the hunter we find in the Nightmare. That's guaranteed. But yeah, apart from that, the outer world is a mystery.
It's a complete mystery, isn't it? A complete mystery.
It's almost the assumption, I mean, because you have no reason not to believe it, that it's just our world, but that can't be the case. Mm-hmm. It must be our world, but like a twist on
an alternative version of yeah, absolutely. And in that regard, I mean, could they even bring in a little bit of real world history into it? That would be very interesting, wouldn't it?
Perhaps, because I mean, Yharnam's quite advanced. They've got sewer systems, they have lifts.
Yeah, right.
Granted, we have no idea how the lifts work, but you just accept that they do. That's fine.
You don't question it. They work, and that's the end of it. Yeah, they do, and they have lots of other things as well. They have firearms. They have, they even have like wheelchairs and things like that, mechanisms and things.
I don't think electricity, though. At least not on a public use level, at the very least.
No, they might have, like, certainly in Bergenworth, maybe they might have something like an Anne Barrick kind of thing that can, like a Nikolai Tesla coil or something, something like that. But I don't think they have like an electrical system or anything to that effect. But no, they have an advanced sewer system.
Yeah, it's not. Though, like, if you said this many times, you'd like to live there, and when I've heard you say that, I've always been like, would you though? But then I've thought about it, and it's like, it's not it's not terrible. It's got a lot of, apart from everything wants to kill you.
Yeah, that's
apart from that, and everything is kind of grotty and dirty. It's got a lot of the features that you need for a city to work.
For a civilization, yeah. I mean, that's one of the fun things about Bloodborne, I find, in terms of its storytelling. I mean, it's almost in media res. You know, you're dropped into the story after it's happened, really. I would love to see, I mean, they won't do it now, obviously, but when they were still making DLC for the game, one of the things I would have loved to have seen is a walking simulator where you just wander around Yharnam as it was, or how it's not when the hunts aren't on.
Yeah, that'd be very interesting, but I think would also be a detriment because it would spoil the ideas that you're thinking of, because it would give you a physical look at what it is rather than what you would like it to be.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there. It's a bit
which is a shame. It's that horrible double-edged sword because I'd like it, but it also would do stuff that you wouldn't like. And
you're absolutely right. It's a bit like Rapture in Bioshock, isn't it? You know?
Yeah.
It's part of its ethos is the fact that it is crumbling and dying and broken down. It's the same with Yharnam. The fact that it is so horrific and desolate at this point is part of its charm. And part of its atmosphere, you know. I mean, when I say I'd like to live there, I'm actually more referring to the metaphysics, you know. I mean, if I were like a hunter in Bloodborne, I'd be going for the transcendent ending.
I could see that.
Definitely.
Though I don't think you're lying when you'd say you'd like to live in Canehurst. Because, again, apart from the spooky ghost ladies and the vampires hanging about, that's a pretty nice castle. You got dudes that keep the floors lovely polished.
Oh, yeah, obsessively so.
Yeah, it's pretty clean. They just have an abundance of statues, which is a bit annoying.
In odd places.
Yeah, just
strangely
everywhere.
situated.
But they don't seem to have a kitchen, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, it's a great castle.
It's absolutely beautiful, Canehurst. It's one of my the only problem, the infestations of ghosts and tick women and whatnot. That's a problem.
Yes. And they're always crying, which would be annoying trying to sleep through.
That would be annoying, yes, absolutely. And there's also the fact that there's no one really there anymore. You know, there's just Annalise up in a tower.
Yeah, well, you've got the servants, but they seem really concerned with the workforce other than conversation.
I get the impression that they wouldn't be much for conversation.
No, you'd be that guy at the end of the show where he's like, oh, I've got all these books, I've got all the time in the world, at least, because they have a big library.
Oh, actually, the library is my favourite part of Canehurst. Yeah. That could keep me going for a while.
And there's multiple libraries. There's at least two.
Yeah,
there's the big one and then the secondary one.
Yes, there's like the sort of annex libraries, aren't there? So yeah.
Yeah.
And then you've got Marta Logarius up on the roof.
You know, chilling out in his chair, being cold.
I love that. I love the implication that he's like holding it in place. It's like his existence is holding the spell in place that keeps Canehurst masked from the outer world.
Well, is it not just Annalise who's masked from the outer world? Is he imprisoning her?
I think that's it, yeah. Because you know you can't kill her.
No,
she's totally immortal. I memean, you know, Alfred gives it a good go, but she's still alive.
Yeah, I would say that existence is not something she'd be pleased with.
No. But
there's an implication that she'd never go back to being normal unless you go to the whatever creature it is next to Ivritas.
Yeah,
if never did that, she'd just be a mush.
It looks like Rom the spider, doesn't it?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
Whether you're meant to infer it is Rom somehow, I don't know, or whether it's another entity that like ascended. I mean, Rom's an interesting one because it's not explicitly stated, but it does seem like she was once a mortal scholar. Which
would make sense why she doesn't want to attack you, which she doesn't at first.
Which she doesn't at first, yeah, it's absolutely true. And she is now holding in place the illusions that mask what's going on in Mensis.
Yeah.
She's almost like holding back the night, isn't she?
She's definitely holding back the insanity that then kind of spills all over. Which again, does that go back to stopping it because of the amygdala that would then kind of swarm over Yharnam at that point?
It's very, very, very hard to say for certain, but that is definitely the implication. And in that regard, you're kind of a bad guy.
Yeah. You know, you're not in the right.
You're not really in the right in that regard, are you?
Yeah. Oh, does that mean that potentially... Well, I mean, in the Chalice Dungeon, again, from a story perspective, that's not Rom, clearly, right?
Yeah, it can't be, can it? I don't think it can be. It must be like maybe another scholar or someone else that ascended in a similar way or something.
Or would it have been the Thumerian version of Rom when they were doing it?
Possibly, yeah. Who knows? So it's like cyclical, yeah?
Yeah, perhaps, which again would fit with Dark Souls. Maybe would fit with Bloodborne as well.
Maybe. And that actually, yes, that makes a load of sense. That makes a load of sense because characters are consistently saying, oh, it's all happened before. And it ends the same way every time the hunt ends, the night ends. So, yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's the case.
Maybe.
Or maybe it's just like, they just took the same boss fight and just put it in the Chalice Dungeon. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, at the moment, Andy is Let's Playing Bloodborne at kind of the same time that I am.
Yeah, for the most part,
and we're kind of in, we seem to be making similar progress. We're doing it in different ways, and we're going down slightly different routes here and there. But generally speaking, it seems to be at the same pace.
For the most part, I'm not filming the Chalice Dungeons mainly because if I do them, I just want to blast through them, and I don't find them interesting enough to really want to record them.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand that completely. I really do. I mean, there will come a point where I will just start filming the bosses.
Yeah,
and that's it. You. And that's it. I won't be doing the actual. Once we've seen like pretty much what they have to offer, we'll just do the bosses after that.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Where am I up to? Because I think I've got like 4 episodes uploaded, but I'm not live at the moment. So, what was the last thing I did? I'm going through Snake Orgy Woods, as I call
it, which makes a lot of sense. Sickening. They do look like mating balls, don't they?
Yeah. It's disgusting. It's immoral.
Yeah, Snake Porn Woods.
Snake Porn Woods. Yeah. So I'm going through there at the moment. I've got through most of it. I opened the last thing I did was I opened the shortcut to then go down. So I killed the big pig. Both of the big pigs, basically on the way to the Shadows of Yharnam. Mm-hmm. I've got Amygdala to fight,
right?
And obviously the DLC. Yeah. I opened the shortcut there, but I haven't got to the second bonfire next to, not Lawrence. What's his name? Ludwig. Thank you. Yeah. So I've got like 3 bosses basically coming up.
Yeah, big ones.
Yeah,
big ones.
Yeah.
Well, in the main game, I've just killed the Shadows of Yharnam.
Oh, right, okay.
Just killed them, but I paused outside of Byrgenwerth, because of course, once you do Byrgenwerth, the night moves on.
That's right.
And I'm just...
Do you do the Shadows this time with people or without? Because last time you did it with...
I did them with people this time, because they give me such a pain in the arse.
They are unpleasant.
The Shadow... Sure. They're one of those bosses I just can't quite get the rhythm of.
It doesn't help that there's 3 of them, each with different aspects to them, and... It's when you do enough damage to them just in general that they do the whole snake summon thingy, isn't it?
Yep.
And that's a pain.
They're just one of those bosses for me. There are lots of bosses in Bloodborne I can do on my own, but the Shadows, for some reason, nah. Actually, in fact, I'm so intent on getting them done, I have 2 followers.
Oh yes, yeah, you did that last time as well, because you found there's the one in that slightly hidden path up to the right-hand side of the other one.
You get one of the Madaris twins, and you also get Henrik. Henrik comes back to fight alongside you, which is kind of cool, actually. I like that idea a lot, that he's sort of, like his soul is enslaved to you, or something.
That's bleak.
I kind of like
it's true,
that.
Though.
I kind of like that. But yeah, I've kind of paused the main game outside of Byrgenwerth. I did the Nightmare of Mensis, that's done. I killed the Amygdala.
Did you find him difficult again?
No, actually. The Amygdala I've kind of got down now, I've done that boss fight quite a lot, and I found him reasonably easy. I got ganked once when he leapt up in the air and dropped on me and just killed me in one go. But no, I took him out fairly quickly this time.
I'm hoping to have a fairly easy time with him, since his weak spot's his head. I should be able to just shoot him in the head a few times.
Oh yeah, actually your build, it should just... Yeah, it should be quite easy,
hopefully,
actually.
As long as I don't miss my shots.
Yeah, right. And that is a thing, because he moves so damn quickly.
He do.
What else have I done? I've done like the first circuit of the Hunter's Nightmare and just opened the shortcut. Talked to the hunter. What's his name with the bow blade?
Yeah.
And I'm just sort of outside Ludwig's lair now and contemplating. Should I give it a go?
Just sit there, perpetually sweating.
Right. Should I mean, what I want to do first, I want to go and do that cave that has the Bloodstar Beast in it.
Oh, the little baby!
Yeah, I want to go do that, because I love the amygdala arm weapon.
I've never had a build to be able to use it, but I like the concept, and the moveset's quite neat for it.
It's so much fun. It's like a whip club, kind of
thing. You know what you should... I saw this really cool build where, I can't remember what the stats were for it, but they got the... what's his name? It's like the Madman's robes from the Tomb, where it's all got a snake wrapped around it.
Yeah, the Tomb Prospector guy.
Yeah, it's not the main Tomb Prospector, it's the other one, the mad
snake.
One.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have that and the amygdala arm together, it looks really, really cool.
I can imagine
because they just blend.
Yeah, it's the grokey weird hunter, isn't it? It's like ew, yeah. And I just love the animation on the amygdala arm. It twitches and it kind of, because it's alive, you know, it twitches and writhes and it's foul. I love it to bits. But I do. Ludwig is one I am just going to have to put some effort into, because he's an essential boss. You've got to kill him.
Yes.
And he's in the way. You know,
yeah.
In order to progress, you've got to kill him. And he always acts as a roadblock for me because he's so difficult.
I would be surprised if there's anyone who, unless they've been fighting the boss a good few times or have played the game a lot, who wouldn't be hampered by him.
Yeah, right.
For a little bit. If it's your first time you fought him and you've never fought him and you beat him first time, I'd be like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
What even do you do? You know, what exactly are you supposed to do? Yeah. But no, he's also one of my favourite bosses, though. So you know, I think he's fantastic. I love his movesets. I think his animations are amazing, and the atmosphere of the guy is just second to none.
Oh, it's good. It's very, very good.
And then you get the wonderful bits following. You know, you get to physically see what the Healing Church were actually doing. Which is.
Do you think you'll struggle with the Orphan?
The Orphan, I tend to struggle with him initially, but once I've got him down, I'm all right. I haven't fought him for a long, long time, so I need to get I need to do a bit of practicing with the Orphan, I think. But yeah, I mean, everybody struggles with the Orphan because he's a pain in the arse.
Yeah, definitely.
He's a proper hard boss. You know what I've never figured out, and I've never seen a lore video that actually does figure it out. What is the link between him and Gehrman?
Yeah.
Because I
have no idea.
You get different dialogue from the doll and from Gehrman after you've defeated the Orphan of Kos.
I mean, if I wanted to be crass, I could say it's his dad and he forked Kos.
That's kind of... You know what? That's what I was thinking.
Well, the man will have sex with a doll. He'll have sex with an old one, too.
That's kind of what I was thinking. Is the Orphan of Kos, in some weird, bizarre way, the child of Gehrman?
Yeah, whatever that entails. Maybe he didn't actually have physical sex with Kos, but maybe it's more of he took an aspect of it, of Gehrman.
You know what? Gehrman was there when the hunters helped Bergenworth raid the fishing village, yeah?
Yeah.
So he was part of the atrocities that occurred. So is it somehow that the atrocities and the things that he did to Kos somehow conceived this tormented thing that is the Orphan of Kos?
It would make sense. It's almost like he maybe struck the final blow, and this was almost the revenge strike from Kos.
Who knows? I mean, because you know that does happen quite a lot in the Hunter's Nightmare. You do get characters that cross over in other worlds. So you get, of course, Maria and the doll.
Yeah.
Who are the same creature essentially, and when you kill Maria, you get different dialogue from the doll.
It's true.
Fascinating stuff. I love that to bits. But the link between Gehrman and the Orphan, don't know, no idea.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is fascinating.
I mean, not the entire game's interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's that very peculiar form of storytelling it has, where you kind of put it together in your own head. It's a wonderful style because it means that no two players come away with quite the same lore in their heads.
Unless they watch Vardy videos,
unless
which
they
makes
watch
things a lot easier.
Which is yeah, guys, by the way, if you really are into the lore of these video games, and honestly, it's some of the best lore you'll ever find in video games. It's just beautiful. Just go and watch Vati Vidya's videos because he goes so deep.
And I would always say when watching his videos, it's always a good place to start and then come to your own conclusion.
Definitely. Because what I love about Vati Vidya, although he provides lots of different evidence and lots of different interpretations, he's also it's very much the case that he acknowledges that these are just his interpretations of the evidence,
Yeah.
So you put it together yourself. That's the joy of these games. They are genuinely interactive storytelling. They are they deliberately excite imagination. So whatever the hell is going on in Yharnam, it's kind of up to you. And I love that. I love that to bits. They're so sophisticated in that regard.
Yeah, it's it also lends for a lot of discussion. Obviously, like we've had here, like many other people have had. There's it gives more interest to a story than just here is the story. This is what it is.
It involves
which is obviously, I think, why Doom and Doom Eternal are as interesting now as they are.
Yeah, right.
Because they have a lot of those kind of storytelling elements to them now. It's
they really do.
Hey, well, here's the lore in a bit of paper and very small bits around the world, and then you figure it out yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And even that's like baked into the character you're playing. Like the Doom guy, whenever he comes up against any bit of lore or storytelling, he just sort of like, not interested, that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
Which I love that to bits. And that, I mean, what that does, and certainly what that does in the Dark Souls and Bloodborne games as well, is you engage with them on the level you want to. So if you're into the lore and you really want to delve into it and you want to unpick it and you want to extrapolate, go for it. It provides so much material for that. But if you don't want to, if you just want to play them competitively, if you just want to play them as technical exercises, they work on that level too.
Yeah.
They really work on that level. Bloody hell.
Miyazaki has made some really good games.
Yeah, right. I mean,
by the by.
I'm kind of in awe of these games. I mean, for me, Bloodborne is top 3 easily of all time.
Have you ever played Nier or Nier Automata?
I haven't, but I've heard a lot about it, and a lot after when I talk to people about Bloodborne and Dark Souls, they do say, you do need to play the Nier games as well.
Yeah, I would say so as well. They're not the same, but they are. Yoko Taro, who did the Nier stuff and Drakengard and all those games, has a very interesting way of doing his stories, and I think they're very, very interesting.
Yeah, I've been told, people who I've spoken to about this stuff, they say, you really, really should have a go at Nier, so that may be one to look forward to in the future,
I'd say so, yeah.
Maybe. And I think, Andy, at that point, we may have exhausted this one. I think we may have wrung it dry, unless there's anything else.
I don't think that's true, because this is one of those things you could.
Yeah.
There's like 4 games to talk about, and there's so much.
This is basically, it is an infinite rabbit hole. It's an infinite regress you set up, isn't it? You could just keep going. But unless is there anything else that you'd like to add?
There's one thing that at least I don't know if you knew. We could talk about the very briefly about the Lost and Uncanny Weapons, which you have. You could get all of the Lost and Uncanny Weapons right now if you wanted. You could get some of the hard weapons. And I'm really annoyed that you haven't, because I wanted to do that with the Chikage. I didn't want to have to fight the Martyr Licarius
without it. Yeah,
but I didn't have that option. Because the ability to slot in those gems massively increases your chances to live. If you want as well, since you have the Beast Cutter now, don't you?
I do.
I can't remember which level it is, but if you find any of the shops in those dungeons, you can buy
the Uncanny Beast Cutter and the Lost Beast Cutter, I believe.
Yes, you can. As long as you find them in the DLC, you can buy them, and unlike the other normal ones where you have to find them unless you get the codes,
which is slightly annoying, isn't it? Yeah,
a tad. Yeah,
I think you can also buy. Isn't there a version of the Holy Moonlight Sword you can buy down there as well?
If it's in the DLC, then yes.
Yeah, it is. I mean, that's one of my favorite weapons, but you have to kill Ludwig to get it.
Yeah, I wanted to use the parasite, but I didn't get the parasite until everything was pretty much dead.
Right.
Which was like the arcane
parasite.
Weapon. Yeah.
You know, I love what it does. The transformation that it inflicts on you, where you become like the cauliflower-headed kin thing.
That's a rune. That's the milkwood.
That's
rune.
it. Yeah, I love that. I love it to bits.
And then the parasite does stuff. Otherwise, if you have it but without the milkwood rune, you just punch.
Yeah,
it doesn't do anything.
It doesn't do a thing, does it? It actually changes your arms into luminous, translucent tendrils.
And you do arcane explosions, which are incredibly powerful online in PvP.
Right,
I've seen some nasty stuff. I've seen in Canehurst there was a guy who was invaded. He was invading, and you know the ladder that you climb up to get to the martyr?
Yeah.
He jumped onto a level opposite that and transformed into a little messenger scroll and sat on the banister. So then when the two climbed up the ladder, he transformed, did the arcane explosion, killed them, and then the bodies fell down.
Oh, brilliant.
It was so nice. There's some people who have thought of horrifically terrible and amazing things to do.
I love it a bit.
Nasty.
Yeah, and you know, I've never seen anyone do like a run with the parasite of Kos.
It's because you get it so late in the game. I don't know if you can get uncanny and lost versions of them, but it's like I don't think people do the Orphan of Kos quickly. I have a feeling most people leave that for a bit.
I think you're absolutely right there. But you could do like a New Game Plus run with the parasite. It'd be interesting to do.
This is the problem though with that makes Bloodborne not as good as Dark Souls 3 in that you can't respec your character at all.
Yeah.
That was the best element they took from Dark Souls 2.
Definitely.
And the fact that you can't respec your character means that it's not as fun to do a New Game Plus, because you can't be like, okay, I've done this run, I'll do it. Yeah, you just have to settle on, okay, I'm just going to do more of the same.
Yeah, you are stuck. As once you've made your hunter, that's your hunter.
And that's its greatest weakness, I think, for Bloodborne as a whole, compared to at least Dark Souls 3 and, in a sense, Dark Souls 2. I say in a sense because it's. I mean, we both agree it's not nearly as good as the game, but at least you have that element to it.
I always feel bad for ragging on it. I always do, because there's so much about it I like.
That's the thing. This is the problem. It's still a fantastic game. It's still a really good game. But then it's up against kings, and it's like the pauper. It's like it's a king in its own right, but it's a pauper in its own class. Unfortunately,
it's unambiguously true.
Yeah,
and it's a shame. It is a shame, because you can see the glimmers of potential where it could be amazing.
And I think it was necessary because it added elements that were taken over to Dark Souls 3 and potentially Bloodborne, depending on how that production schedule worked out. Completely necessary step, even if it didn't hit the heights of 1, and it is the lesser child of them. It still was very happy to play it. Yeah,
me too, and I'm glad that it has like really marked differences from the other games. I'm actually glad about that, because it does make it very distinct.
Yeah.
It's just I could just do without the cheapness. That's the big thing for me.
Have you seen that there's a new I don't know if you have it for PC, but there's a new light mod that's being created for it, which makes the game look really pretty. There's a shot of the boss in the circular room, who you basically can either knock off the area or
the Dragon Rider. The Dragon Rider, yeah.
And there's a window up top, and obviously there's no light. In this new mod, there's like sun rays kind of coming through there, and the ambient light is bumped up tremendously. And it's fairly new, and it is obviously a mod. But I'll see if I can find you the interview if you're interested that some guy did on it.
I mean, one of the things that could potentially happen in the future is, of course, remakes. I mean, there could certainly space for a remake of Demon's Souls. And I don't just mean a remaster, I mean an actual, honest-to-God remake.
Yeah, I would definitely feel comfortable with them doing Demon Souls. I think it's almost too soon for them to do a Dark Souls 1, because I feel most people have done Dark Souls. Like, I didn't start with Demon Souls. I started with Dark Souls 1.
Yeah, right.
And I've only seen people play Demon Souls, luckily, because it looks so wonky.
I tried it, and it's one of those games where, like, I can see how this was really impressive when it came out.
Well,
but
somewhat. It was innovative, I would say, maybe not impressive.
It's problematic. It's enormously problematic, that game.
So if they redid Demon Souls and then they maybe tweaked some of the lore to make it a bit more interesting as well, because I wouldn't say the story sounded, especially compared to Dark Souls 1, 2 and 3 and Bloodborne. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, compared to the games that come after, the lore is not all there. It's not all that, not yet anyway. You know what? Why not a Demon Souls 2? Why not maybe a continuation of that franchise? That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that, but I guess we'll have to wait till Elden Ring, because this might be a completely new thing where we're like, Dark Souls, put that in the trash bin.
It could be. You never know. It could be. I mean, and of course, who knows? Maybe at some point a continuation of Bloodborne.
Maybe.
Who knows? But if they don't, if they don't continue Bloodborne, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, it would be a shame, but it's a great standalone game, and I don't think it's one of those games people will forget.
Oh my god, no. I mean, it's legendary, isn't it? It's absolutely legendary. It's actually become part of video game history now.
I wanted to play for the longest time, and I got like the PS4 Plus. I want to say it wasn't primarily for Bloodborne, and it kind of was.
It kind of was, really. Yeah.
I mean, I just needed a few more games to tempt me, but that was a big factor, and I'm very, very glad I got it.
Yeah, I mean,
5 years later, it's still maybe one of the best games on the system, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say so too. It's always joyous. I mean, the experience of it is always joyous. I mean, I'm replaying it now, and I've played it through so many times. I love it. I love it to bits. It's one of those games, It's just one of those games. If people ask you what is your favourite of, well, gun to head, probably Bloodborne,
Yeah, I can see that.
Probably Bloodborne, and I found it almost by accident. It was actually Ray. It was Ray Curran who introduced me to it. He bought it.
Right.
I mean, I knew of it. I'd heard of the Dark Souls games. I'd heard of Bloodborne, but for some reason, I hadn't played them. I hadn't picked them up and played them. I think was it
the get good mentality?
I think it was. I think it was the culture around them that kind of alienated me from them. It was kind of
see that.
I don't have time for that. I just don't have time for that. But then he got it, and he was like, I went round to his, and he put it in my hand, and he went, you know what? I can't play that. Just can you show me what you do? And I was like, well, I could give it a go, And so I had a go at it, and I kept dying. I kept coming up against the villagers, in the main square.
Yes.
And I just kept dying and dying and dying, and I was like, what's going on? What am I kept thinking about it as a video game, So what am I doing wrong? What am I getting wrong? And then I figured it out. I was like, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. I just don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And that was it.
No, I would say that you were playing it like a normal video game, where the game would intend you to kill them all and it'd be easy, instead of like, I gotta take an entirely different approach. I gotta take them one at a time and slowly.
You're looking for a trick, like you would in a video game. That's maybe I haven't got the right weapon, maybe I haven't done something, maybe there's something wrong, maybe I'm supposed to die. No, you just have to learn, and that was a really interesting experience. I found that fascinating, and I just bought it after that. I bought it and I played it and I loved it to bits. Every aspect of it I just adored.
Yeah, for me it was Dark Souls 1, and I think this was before the hype. My friend Phil got the game. I played it, and the thing that put me off, because I didn't enjoy it, mainly for the aspect of I got to the level up screen and it doesn't tell you anything.
It doesn't tell you a damn thing.
And that was something I still say. Obviously now I know, so I don't need the explanation. But I do think it should have had a bit more of a handhold and said what these things are for, because what's resistance for?
Right.
Well, it's for poison.
Well,
that sounds really useful. No,
it's for next to nothing. Yeah. So you can actually, you can definitely gank your character before you even start.
Yeah.
Which does happen a lot.
Oh, totally. And obviously, I went the wrong way. I went down.
I did that exact damn thing. When I first played Dark Souls 1, I went down into the bloody catacombs and got stuck.
I wonder if it's a mentality of, instead of, maybe you think down is easier than going up?
I don't know. I honestly
And there's also the big cathedral thing there, which is a big eye draw.
Yeah, right.
Instead of like, there's stuff upwards the staircase. Whatever. I'll go here.
I did that exact thing, and it took me forever to get out.
Yeah. Did you actually get into the catacombs?
Oh yeah. I actually got down there. It took me a bloody long time, but I actually got down there, and I activated the bonfire down there, and that was it. I was like, fuck, I'm stuck. I don't know how to get out. I got stuck in that area with the wheel skeletons.
Oh no! You got quite far down.
I did all right. I didn't do too badly, but I just couldn't get out.
If there's an enemy type in Dark Souls 1 that wants to make you kill yourself in frustration, it was the wheeled bone skeletons. They're nightmarish.
They are,
especially the first game.
Honestly, it's the range at which they activate.
Oh,
it's massive,
and they come in mass as well. It's like one. Okay. And in that area you were talking about, there's 5?
Yep.
5?
There's loads of them. I almost gave up.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Right at the beginning as well. I hadn't done anything. I hadn't done a damn thing. I almost gave up.
I did give up. I don't know why I came back to it. I must have watched some videos on it and thought, alright. And I think then there was a Steam sale on, and it must have been super cheap.
Yeah.
But then obviously on PC you had to then download DS Fix as well to not have a break on you, which was a pain.
Brilliant.
So then I just got into it. I think I watched some before you play Dark Souls kind of guides. Like it gave me an idea of what you should be doing, and I went, okay, now I had an idea. I then slowly got into it more and more.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have that experience with these games. I think they initially play them and are massively alienated.
Yeah.
Because they're just not like other games. Certainly not games of their type. They don't function along the same lines, and they defeat assumption and expectation.
Yeah.
But if you can sort of power through that, then you'll definitely you'll get something out of them. But then again, I mean, they are also deliberately alienating. They're not for everyone.
No, but in my mind, I assumed it would be hard like Ninja Gaiden Black on the Xbox. The first Xbox was going to be like, because that's a hard game. That's an unpleasantly hard game as well. But it felt like something you knew. It felt like an action game. Yeah. And I thought that's what Dark Souls would feel like. I thought it would feel like Ninja Gaiden, Devil May Cry, kind of. Like that, and it doesn't. It
just doesn't. It is not.
No.
That's exactly what I came at it thinking. Like a traditional action game. Yeah.
Yeah.
No. It's nothing like it. It doesn't feel like it at all. It's a totally different experience, and it's a kind of acquired taste, isn't it? You've got to cultivate the taste for it, and get used to dying.
Or get used to feeling terrible at yourself and feeling frustrated.
Yeah, there's a masochistic element to these games, I'm telling you. There is, definitely. And in that regard, they appeal to very particular tastes, I think.
I agree, yeah.
But what I like about them more than anything, they're not afraid of that.
No. They've certainly
lent
into their audience. They haven't kowtowed to what the game's producers or publishers in this day and age tell you that you should be making.
Definitely not. No, in fact, they've gone the other way.
Look at Dead Space. Poor Dead Space.
Right.
That was killed by what is it? EA. First game, fantastic. Second game, okay, it's still good. And then 3 was what a mess.
Yep.
Oh no.
Yep.
Murdered the franchise.
That's exactly it. It. But no, FromSoft seem to stick to their guns. They really do. In fact, they go the other way. If you look at Sekiro, Sekiro's probably, I mean, it's hard to say which is the hardest of these games because they're all hard in different ways, but Sekiro is a pain in the arse.
Loved it.
It's a very, very difficult piece of work. They've actually leaned into the get good thing.
Yes.
With Sekiro. It's almost like just the technical elements boiled down, very good, very beautiful in that regard, really elegant. It's like, the way I've always described it is, like the hunter battles are the hardest thing in Bloodborne, yeah, by and large.
Yes, yeah.
It's just a game full of them. That's basically it.
Yeah, I can see that, but it had the advantage of the fantastic freedom of movement, which you haven't had in anything else up to that point.
Absolutely true. Yeah, it's much.
Which is a shame, because that looked like the most fun part of Sekiro, like the hooking left and right and through the mountains and over the rooftops. That looked great. But FromSoft has always done their own thing.
Yeah.
Always. Like, the Armored Core series is very, very specific. You have to min-max your stuff to know what you're doing there. It's like a Japanese version of Mech Warrior.
Right, okay.
That's probably how I would describe Armored Core. And they used to obviously do Tenchu, which were... I like the really shit Tenchu games, because they're fun. Like, I like Tenchu Z for the Xbox, which was terrible, but there was nothing quite like uppercutting a bear into the water and watching it drown.
Okay.
It looked like it was dancing as it was going into the water, and it would portray white people as pirates who would walk around in a slightly flamboyant, shall we say, posture as they go.
Brilliant.
It had its own special flavor, but that's what made From Software makes.
Yeah,
it's still going. A very interesting developer.
Yeah,
they do things that most won't.
They know their audience. And they really go hard appealing to them. And like establishing a very loyal fan base as a result, even if it means they kind of alienate a lot of new players. They don't mind that.
Yeah, I don't think I don't know for sure, but I don't think they assumed that Dark Souls would have been the success it was, because it was, I think it was elevated to a AAA kind of level seller, rather than probably what I would have thought they would have assumed, which was like the B tier, maybe?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It does have the feeling of a slightly indie game or small press game made good.
Yeah, I wouldn't say indie, I would say what we used to get for the B tiers.
Yeah.
Because we used to get a lot of like very specific, very focused games, which we don't get anymore.
Yeah.
Where it's either it's AAA or it's indie, and it's like we don't have that in between anymore.
No, you're absolutely correct.
Which is a bummer.
Yeah. It's because they want like the big video game developers generally just want everything, don't they? They want it to be like the biggest sell. Yeah, they want the biggest selling thing ever. But FromSoft don't seem to operate in that way.
No, it's bizarre.
It is really,
but it's bizarre.
It's wonderful because it results in true art. It results in truly artistic games, and it results in experiences that are this immersive, so immersive that you can sit and talk about them for God knows how long. Or you can be like VatiVideo, where you can make an entire YouTube channel based on them.
I'm going to make a prediction. No, it is a slight prediction, but I'm going to predict when you play. If you play in the future Nier Automata, I almost guarantee that you'll want to do a podcast or a series of videos talking about it.
Interesting. Oh, that makes me want to play it even more.
Obviously, I don't want to build it up too much, but I have a feeling you'll want to. At the very least, you'll talk about the music. I don't mind like overblowing how good the fucking music is, but the music's amazing. Right. It's so good.
Okay.
It's as good as Bloodborne music, but in a different, a much more different feel.
Right. Okay. Well, you heard it here first, ladies and gents. Look out! There will almost certainly be a Nier playthrough somewhere on this channel at some point.
And there is a new Nier game coming, or it's a remake of the first Nier. I'm not sure. Mikey told me about it, but I saw it and I was like, "Oh yes, come on now,
it's got to be done." Yeah? Wow.
Yeah, 100%.
Brilliant stuff. Right then, Andy. I think we can call that a video. There. Is there anything else that you'd like to add?
In terms of this stuff, no. I think that's good.
I think we've really wrung that dry. And is there anything you'd like to pimp out?
Yeah, if you don't mind, you can find me on YouTube as CobraCommanderTFW. Yep. You can find me on my own podcast where we talk about Transformers, Moonbase 2, Transformers podcast. That's on YouTube, or just Moonbase 2. You can find us across the internet for the most part.
Just scattered across the internet, yeah.
I don't want to throw down all of the links because there's so many.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys. Links down below. I particularly recommend Andy's playthrough of Bloodborne and Dark Souls 3. They're very good indeed. He's a much better Dark Souls player than I am, so you won't get as frustrated watching him play. As for myself, it's just the usual, guys. You can find me knocking about here on the Exaggerated Elegy channel. There's always something going on here. You can find my written fiction over at strangeplaygrounds.com. You'll find links to my short story collections there. You can also get them from Amazon.co.uk and .com, and you can also get me on Twitter at Enigmatic Elegy. Thanks so much, Andy, for coming on.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's been a long time coming, and I thoroughly enjoyed this.
It's been an absolute blast. Thanks so much. And until next time, guys, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.